Good evening and welcome to the August 22nd, 2018 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Before we get onto the agenda, I'd like to ask everybody to please silence your devices that you may have with you. And
I think I do.
I guess that's it. We'll get onto the agenda. The first item is minutes. I think we don't have any ready to vote on. Is that correct?
No, I think Susan is reviewing the tapes and will be getting us the minutes.
All right, great, thank you, Jen. Also, an item not listed was a late-breaking request for continuance. It was it's the last item on the agenda before the voting of orders. Bradley and Elizabeth Weiner, 14 Maker Lane, Falmouth.
Yes, Madam Chairman, the applicant's representative is requesting a continuance until September 12th.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
September
12. Okay, so now we'll go to request for determination of applicability for anyone who's here for one of these and not familiar with the process. For these kinds of applications, what the applicant is looking to hear is a negative determination. That means that they are not required to move on to the next level, that what they've submitted already is sufficient. Okay, so first RDA is Saltbox LLC, 61 Green Pond Road, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to install a new Title V septic system and to pump, fill, and abandon the existing leaching pit.
Madam Chair, the staff recommends a -2 determination under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed by this RDA.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Next, Richard McCune, Lot 2, Inlet Lane, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to construct a single-family dwelling with appurtenances.
Madam Chair, the staff recommends a -2 determination under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed by this RDA.
So moved. Second.
All right, we have someone at the podium. Would you like to speak about this application, or?
Only if you have questions, I'm here to answer any
All
questions
right,
that you
thank
may have.
you. So, no questions from the board? Any questions from the public? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
It's your easiest night here.
Cape Wide Construction Incorporated, 60 Hanson Circle, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to expand the existing deck to 14 feet by 21 feet.
Madam Chair, the staff recommends a -2 determination under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed by this RDA.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Marina Hines, 2 Pondlet Place, Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to upgrade the existing septic system to a new Title V septic system.
Madam Chair, the staff recommends a -2 determination under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed by this RDA.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Margaret Coppola, 286 Sippowisset Road, Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to construct 2 sets of stone steps to allow access down steep areas of the bank.
Madam Chair, the staff recommends a -2 determination under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed by this RDA.
So moved. Second.
Anything from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Okay, now we move on to requests for hearings under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. So first tonight, we have Thomas and Geraldine Crane, 35 Juniper Road, Woods Hole, Juniper Point Road, Woods Hole, Massachusetts, for permission to remove the existing driveway and construct a single-family dwelling with garage under, porches, patios, steps, retaining walls, driveway, Title V septic system, and all associated utilities, clearing, excavating, grading, mitigation planting, and landscaping.
Madam Chair, I will recuse from this hearing.
All right. For the record, Vice Chair Jamie Matthews is recusing.
Thanks, Mike.
Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, my name is Michael McGrath. I'm a registered engineer and professional land surveyor. My firm Holmes McGrath prepared the notice of intent and plans. Accompanying me tonight are the owners, Tom Crane and his wife Geraldine, I'm sorry, and Kimberly Mercurio, who is a landscape architect. I passed out small 11 by 17 versions of this plan. The resource here is, this is Great Harbor and Woods Hole. There is a vegetated coastal bank here. There's the top of the bank. There is a, it's not clearly shown. You've approved the reconstruction of this road, and there's a freshwater wetland and next to the entrance. There's a resource area, Falmouth Wetlands Regulation Zone B that goes through here. The house is located within the resource area B of the coastal bank, and there's also there's an existing driveway that you can still make out on the ground that used to go up to the large mansion that existed. So the proposal was to construct a single-family house here on the downhill side of the landform. The landform is basically a ridge. It's steep on this side, more gradual on this side. At the base, there is not only the driveway, but there's an existing garage. The septic system is sized for 3 bedrooms for the house, plus there's going to be there's been a bathroom in this historically, so we are showing a pump. That's the only work that's in the resource area for the freshwater wetland that's off to the north of the existing driveway. So the bottom line is, under your regulations, we have to have, for every square foot of increased impervious area within the different zones, we have to have mitigation plans. So what I've done is I've highlighted in dark green the mitigation plans, and the formulas are shown on the original plan. There's a very large copper beach in this area, and the roots are right at the surface, so we have not tried to put any plants underneath basically the drip line of the large copper beach. So there's mitigation plants here, and then there's mitigation plants that are in this lawn area. There's a hedge at the top, more or less at the top, and then it drops this way. The house is sited so it can see over this, and the bottom line is the mitigation plants are here and here, and I believe that this application meets your criteria for approval under both the town wetlands bylaw regulations and also under the state act. And I think Kim Mercurio ought to come up and at least describe the mitigation plans that she's designed to meet your performance standards.
Thank you, Mike. Ms. Curio, when you move around and all that, you need to take the microphone with you. Okay, thanks.
Yes.
So really, the only thing I'd like to add are the trees that we are also adding in the mitigation area, there are, I believe, 8 trees that are being removed. And we are proposing 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 8 trees in here on the northwest side, and then there's 4 trees in Zone B. Besides that, it's pretty much what Mike just said, the native plants, the 2,200 square feet of native plants would occupy what is now currently existing lawn, and onto the west and into the north and to the south of the properties.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
All right. Peter, would you like to begin?
No questions.
All right. Steve?
I guess there's a lot of construction in the area. I was a little confused by some of the markers, although the lot itself isn't relevant to me. I'd say that I was interested in, the garage is part of this property? No, it's not in Zone A, and I know that's not relevant for us, but within-
Yes, the garage is in the front part of the project. The planning board's approved these lot lines, and so the garage is on the same lot.
Okay. And there's just a bathroom in the garage, is that what you were saying, for the reason for the?
Plus, there's a potential for it to be used in the future. The town's got a new zoning
Sure,
bylaw that
okay.
allows that to be converted.
Right. Okay, that's all the questions I had.
All right, Betsy?
I had a couple of questions. You have a line on here that says edge of lawn,
Yes.
so, but that's all lawn now.
I'm identifying that the existing conditions is lawn in here.
I know, but why?
Proposed edge of lawn.
The lawn is way up here. No, it's not. It goes all the way down to these, goes right down to where the privet hedge is. Yeah. That's all lawn. So why is the thing here that says edge? The edge of lawn is at the privet hedge.
Can I come over and look?
Sure.
That's the back side, Betsy, where all the vegetation was. That's where that is.
See where
the
you
same
say
as
edge
your-
of lawn? The edge of the lawn is actually here. This is all lawn.
Okay.
Okay. So my other question,
I think it's important that, my plan shows that this is all lawn, and you're saying the lawn goes further towards the post house, so
no,
I
no,
will,
I'm
I'll
saying
fix it.
you have a line that says edge of lawn.
Right there. That's beyond the edge of lawn. And that's it.
His lawn goes right down to the
Yeah,
privet
I
hedge.
understand.
But
He's
it
saying
starts
this,
here.
he's saying this is edge of lawn down to the privet hedge.
Oh, and this is all
Yeah,
vegetation.
And that's all right there.
Sorry, Mike.
Oh, you mean I was right?
Yes.
Mike, don't press your luck.
Wow, write the date down.
And I think it's only proper that I apologize that I didn't recognize that there was vegetation.
No, you don't need to apologize.
Busy plan.
He's happy enough as is.
He's happy with it. The only other question I have, so you're replacing 8 trees with 12, and I'm just wondering what the caliper inch. We usually ask for what the caliper inch of the trees that are being removed. And you happen to have that information.
You have to come up.
The trees being removed or the trees
Yeah.
being?
No, both.
Where's my phone?
Well, on the plan, on Mike's, if you look at Mike's plan, you can see the trees with the crosses over them. Those are the ones being removed. And we have a 24-inch, 24-inch, there's a 16-inch, there's a 14-inch, there's a 12-inch. What else? There's another 12-inch, another 14-inch. I think that's it, but I believe it's all on his plan.
There must be
on
one
the-
more.
On the
But
survey.
There are a couple right near the FWR
That don't have any-
V zone line that don't seem to have dimensions recorded. Actually, all of them up,
Everything in the B zone.
yeah, the B zone
And the
ones
B
don't
zone
seem
here?
to
Nothing in
have
the
the
B zone.
dimensions with them.
So I'm not sure which
No
one is
B
this
zone
one.
trees have the caliper inch, only the A
Well,
zone
this one
removal.
is 10 inch, I'm looking at B zone right here. So 10, in here, there's 12 inch, that's B zone, that's 14 inch, that's 12 inch, that's 24 inch. I'm not sure.
How many are in the B zone? In the B zone, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
So
7,
B
8.
zone,
So 8 in the B.
Yeah, over the SAS and,
So it's actually 16 trees being removed,
no, we don't have 16
more or less
trees.
150 inches or
17
something.
trees. Because there's one underneath the porch on the, when it says 12 foot, there's a tree, a 12-inch one under that.
You're not usually in front of us, but.
I haven't been in
but
front of
Mike
you in a
is-
while, put it
Right,
that
but
way.
Mike is frequently in front of us, and he knows that we like to know how many trees are being removed in the buffer and what's the caliper inch of the removal. But, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's on the survey, it's not on my plan.
Yeah, well, you didn't know that, but when you come in the future, I'm sure you'll have that information, right?
Right.
And that was all I had.
okay, thank you. Maureen?
It's 74 caliper inches in the A zone that are being removed.
74,
Yeah.
okay.
And I don't know what caliper inch, because you only have B and B, 5 to 6 and 6 to 8 footers, which are about 3 inches around.
Actually, I was thinking they would be bigger than that, but I wasn't
No.
told that we had to have the caliper for the.
No, I'm just making a statement to the board. That's the size of a 6 to 8 foot or 5 to 6 B and B. They're usually about 3 inches to 4, maybe
Yeah.
4 inches around.
So we have the information we
Yep,
need
yep.
for the discussion.
Yep. First, I would like to say, Mike, this site it's always a pleasure to go out to beautiful sites.
Yeah,
It really is, and it's breathtaking, that view.
Yeah.
Which brings me to, the entire coastal bank is vegetated. Are you planning on a view corridor where you are leaving that grass right now? Because you don't have any trees shown on the plan on the coastal bank.
What the commission's policy in the
Yeah.
past was build the house
Right.
and then come back. So yes, we'll be trying to get a view through the trees,
Okay.
obviously. But in the past, you've never allowed us to show it early on. You always say,
Right.
get the
Yeah,
house
but that was
done.
her question.
That was my question.
Are you gonna
You're
come
going
back?
to
And the
probably
answer is
come back.
yes.
Yes.
Okay, because it's 40, yeah, because, and you gave yourself wiggle room for the 45 feet where you're gonna place it. Thank you. Number 2, you stated that this is a 3-bedroom house and that there's going to be an accessory use of the barn. With an accessory bylaw, which is allowed now, but do you need a D-night system? An accessory apartment?
The other thing is, there's always been a bathroom in the garage, so it allows us the opportunity to do that. And if we have to treat the water different, we'll treat the water different when that conversion takes place.
Well, the reason I'm asking that is the septic system's not designed for that. And will you have enough room if you have to do an add-on when you add the bedrooms in the garage? Which will be, if you're only, that 3, will be 2 bedrooms in the garage.
No,
Well, you
it's
said
only size for one.
Well, you just stated that it's a 3-bedroom house.
And there's gonna be, I sized it for 4 because there is a toilet in there.
But
They
you
have
didn't-
the opportunity to
Sized
make
it
it
for
You
a
sized it for
one-bedroom
5.
accessory.
You sized it for 5.
So I just to clarify that, that's all, that if that's the case, then a denitrifying system, with that being the caveat that there's 2 bedrooms in there, it's actually a 5-bedroom system. All right, so that's that question.
There are several technologies we could put in between.
And that's what I'm asking you. Okay.
You're asking, is there room?
Is there room? I just want to make sure there is room, because that might be an issue, okay? I do want to let you remind your client that there's no future armoring of this site, because this is a new construction, so I just want to make that clear that you don't come back and want to armor it. Not all trees have the size on the plan, we already covered that. And the closest this whole project is, and it's a big project, is 50 feet from the top of a coastal bank that can never be armored. So I just want to make it clear that that's how close you are. You are at the very limit of as close as you could possibly be. And that's for you, Mike. And then,
The house is 60 feet, not 50. You
Um,
show the 50-foot buffer, and then you require 10 foot beyond it, so the house is 60 foot. The other point is, there's no apparent erosion on this portion of the coastal bank.
On this portion.
on this portion, exactly.
Well, she's just reminding you, I mean, you know that's part of the
Actually,
state
Mike-
law, that gets put in as a condition.
Yes.
Actually, Mike, the porch is 50 feet from the top of the coastal bank. The house is 60, the porch is 50.
I believe that's a terrace, not a porch.
Pardon?
Still part of the structure, Mike.
Still part of the structure.
Not under zoning.
We're not
Well,
zoning.
you've
We're
got
not zoning.
steps coming off, so the steps are, so I'm not gonna get into semantics, I just wanna make sure we put that in the findings. And then for the landscape plan, Jen, were you pleased with almost a third of, by the Copper Beach, that a third of the plantings are ground cover of ferns and low bush blueberry, and on the other mitigation, probably again, I'm gonna say almost half of the plantings are low bush blueberry, and they're all abutting the lawn, and we know how that goes. So we'd like to see usually woody indigenous, so that people don't take the mower and nicely take down the beautiful salt fern.
Can I just make a comment
Yeah.
about?
You need to come to the podium, use the mic. It's for the TV audience.
Sorry.
It's all right.
I just want to make a comment about the plants underneath the beach.
They're not
They-
under the beach, you don't have any under the beach.
Well, close to the beach.
Yep.
Because the root system
Mhm.
is very high, and it comes out pretty far. So to plant under there, I just felt like it was better to have more ground cover plants than anything that was too woody.
Which brings me to maybe you need to have more mitigation planting and not count anything in that area around the beach, because they don't like to have any impact on their roots. So,
But we don't show any mitigation plans for 16 feet
For
around
16
the
feet.
trunk.
Right.
Right.
There's no
It's not
mitigation.
counted.
We purposely didn't go like where the highest roots are.
We didn't count that.
Yeah, we didn't
I
use that.
understand that,
Yeah,
but
you
she
did.
just said to me that planting under the beach is why she picked the salt.
Or close to the beach. It's not
Close to the beach.
under the beach, it's close to the beach. There's still gonna be roots, there's a
Okay, so
large
we'll go
tree.
with this, we'll go with the ferns, the hay-scented ferns and the cinnamon fern around the beach, and I agree,
But they are being counted as mitigation.
but they might not be counted as mitigation.
They are,
They-
but
I
that
know they
Mike
are.
is counting them as
I
mitigation.
know, and I'm not pleased with that. But the low bush blueberry, would have to be something more substantial in that area.
So we don't count that, I just wanna
Low bush
understand.
blueberry is usually a ground cover with
Right.
vegetation above it. You know,
Right.
it's not just a little 4-inch.
But you don't consider it mitigation planting then? I just wanna understand.
Well,
We have.
we have, but when it's 1/3 of your mitigation planting is ferns and low bush blueberry on one section of the mitigation and almost half on the other section, that's over half of the mitigation is low bush blueberry. And that we usually do not allow.
Unless it's, I mean, if it were interspace.
Well, that's what I was saying, if you put
If it were
woody
interspaced.
indigenous in with it, you know, bayberry or,
I mean, you show it as two separate zones.
Right.
But
No,
if
I
they were
understand.
interspaced so that
Right, I
You'd have-
understand,
different heights,
yeah.
Structure better.
so that can be.
structure.
Thank you.
That's the
Yes.
word, structure. And other than that, the privet hedge, is it gonna be ripped out because it's an invasive?
No, the client has, it's been on that property for, what, 30 years or more? And Close to 100 years, that privet hedge, and it helps maintain that,
The
top of
boundary, that's,
bank.
all right, I just
So,
wanna make sure, because it
yeah.
is an invasive, so when you come for invasive removal on the coastal bank at some point, then you can't pick your invasives. So I just want to make that clear. And where I'm glad you're putting the bayberry behind the privet hedge. And it does give that structure and stability to the top of the coastal bank. Even though they mowed it.
You all set, Maureen? Okay, Kevin?
No question.
All right, Jen?
Just to follow up on Mary, Mike, look at your calculations because your plan and Ms. Mercurio's plan differ when it looks like it. So you have, on your plan, you have 16 feet off the center of that copper beach. And that's when you start your mitigations. She does too, but then there's a substantial amount of ground cover around that. I have no problem planting the ground cover, but it can't be considered mitigation. So you need to take what is on Ms. Mercurio's plan, calculate that out, and add more woody species. And again, I'm gonna have to agree with Maury that that patio is part of the house structure and it sits right on that top of the coast, 50-foot buffer. Other than that, the staff's concern, or at least my concern, Brendan can comment, I'm not sure if he has any comments, but was what Maury had pointed out, when you're standing there, you're looking at the bank, you do see like a wall of trees. So we were kind of curious what was gonna happen to that after the house was built. So as long as we're comfortable that they'll be coming back for a proper vista pruning permit, we're fine.
It's actually where they've left the opening is the densest area of trees.
Brendan, did you have anything? No?
No. Okay, anything else at this time from the board?
Mary, one more thing.
Yes.
Mike, sorry. If you do have to modify the septic system, do you have the room without impacting that fairly large 54-foot elm at the corner of the driveway? I have a great picture of Brendan standing next to it.
It is the most beautiful tree I've
It
ever
was.
seen.
And Brendan looks small.
Yes, he does. Look.
I know you showed it to me.
They are two of the most beautiful tree specimens.
That's part of the record now.
Yeah.
There is a technology that I can fit in here that consists of 3 different tanks.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Yes, now we'll take some public comment, and
What do we want to say?
please come to the lectern, use the microphone, identify yourself.
Oh, that's his.
This is Mr. Crane regarding the trees. I've spent about 40, 50 years of my life maintaining those trees. They're priceless and precious to me. Everyone from day one has been on notice that those trees have to be preserved and maintained.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public? All right.
So I'm going to make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement, given that if, Mike, you'll have to have a new plan if the septic is,
Are we okay with the caliper inches of trees?
Well, I think we
no,
should,
but that can be part of the.
Okay.
part of the new plan, we do a revised plan.
You want a revised plan showing the,
Well-
let's clarify exactly what I'm going to show.
Yeah.
So
additional
here's what I would say.
mitigation.
I would say not a revised plan yet until the order comes out. Because if you're going to show that the septic system is moved to save
No.
that tree.
He didn't say that.
He didn't say that.
Right.
I
It's-
said that there was sufficient room to put a D-night in to serve the garage if they choose to alter the garage later. But we
Right.
should put the pump in now.
But I think we need a revised plan for the calipers of trees.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
mitigation planting changes. So, I mean, it's not huge, so I don't know if we can close it. I think we should continue with that revision or
It's up to you guys. I just don't know what the calculation would be from one plan to the other, or where they'd propose to show it, so.
And I would.
And also, you're
mean,
gonna
the
be,
only
well,
place-
Brendan will be here.
The only place to put it is in the existing lawn area that looks to be preserved, so if it would go anywhere else, the staff would be uncomfortable reviewing it without this board seeing it.
And I personally would like to see what she's gonna, how she is gonna take
So,
out the blueberry and
just
put the other plants
continue
in. Otherwise, it just doesn't, that doesn't get in a plan.
Right.
It goes to the landscaper and the builder,
All
and
right.
it's not huge. I mean, we can
Yeah.
take care of the business quickly.
But we need Mike to give us, Mike and Jen to agree on a date.
Mike, the next available continuance date is the 19th.
of September?
Yep, we don't meet next week, we don't meet the 5th, and the 12th is completely booked.
Well, then,
Can we get it approved and just file these trivial changes?
what we're asking is, couldn't you condition these changes instead of making us come back?
Well, the board might not agree with the changes that are made, so
Well,
I would.
if we put the conditions in, then they'd have to do what we're asking, but that's not how the conversation went.
It's really up to the board. If you want to condition it, we'll condition it.
We would have to condition the planting changes.
Or
But you can
they
do
come
that.
back
Yeah, I
on
know
the
we can do it, I'm
19th.
just
Yeah.
pointing it out.
I'm
Are we
not gonna
still
be
gonna-
here on the 19th anyway, so it's irrelevant to me whether, I would just assume close it.
Would we
Yeah.
still get a revised plan?
Yeah, there has
Yeah.
to be a revised plan before they can build.
Okay.
A
We'd want a
revised-
revised plan before the Concom, or before your staff would sign off on any building
Right.
permit.
Okay,
I'd second the closing.
all right, then I would, with that condition.
All right. Is there any more comment from the public at this time? Okay, all those in favor of a continuance?
No,
Just-
no, no.
Oh, I'm
Closing
sorry,
the hearing.
closing the hearing, sorry. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Opposed, unanimous, so.
but 9/19, it'll come back, right?
Well,
Next time.
no,
No, it's closed.
it's closed, and
Yes, I
closed.
understand.
so it'll come
The
back
new
when they...
plans will be before
Well,
us.
Well, I'm not
No,
sure.
they don't
When
have
they
to be
meet, when they
before
go
us.
for the building permit,
They
by
don't have to be
then.
before us, it has to be
Jen
before
has to
building
see it.
permit.
Thank you for the clarification.
All right. Next,
rather
we
not.
have Mark and Cynthia Albers, 177 Fay Road, Woods Hole, Massachusetts, for permission to install approximately 170 linear feet of a fiber roll system, restore a coastal
Took
bank,
advantage. Excuse me.
manage invasive plants, and nourish the existing beach.
Good evening. For the record, Seth Wilkinson Ecological Design, here on behalf of Mark and Cindy Albers.
Excuse me, Seth, would you mind speaking up a bit more? That doesn't do any good.
Oh, okay.
That's just for the TV audience, so that's the problem there.
All right. With me is Jim O'Connell, coastal geologist, and unfortunately, our engineer, Mike Borselli, is detained in Mashpee. So if you have any engineering questions, we'll do our best to answer it, but neither of us are engineers. First of all, just to connect the dots, some of you are remembering the name of the applicant. This was the same applicant for the 66 Toledo Street project, which was actually on town property, that I think came through the commission within the last year over on Great Bay. They were the applicant for a project on town property, which was successfully installed last year and thoroughly tested this winter with the storms of this winter. They were very happy with the way it performed. It's now growing in very nicely. We're managing the Japanese knotweed on that bank and making some real progress there. And the bank itself is vegetating nicely. They have a large family, and they also own a property which is being redeveloped on 177 Fay Road, which I believe came before you some time back for the redevelopment project. That was a separate notice of intent. And what brings us here before you tonight, I think, is a relatively straightforward project where we are proposing to, in front of the dwelling and an existing rock revetment, simply do some supplemental American beach grass planting. There's a nice thick beach there with some beach grass. We want to just enhance it. There's a nice distance between the coastal processes and that rock revetment, so that I think only in significant storms is there a lot of interaction between the revetment and the waves. And we want to keep it that way. Keep a nice beach. And keep it well vegetated to try to preserve that sand cover. There's a long-standing groin in the sort of center of the property. in this location. And as Jim could tell you, the littoral drift is this way, so the sand accumulates on this side of the groin and is prevented from accumulating there. So we're looking to bring in some supplemental sand to help to rebuild this beach above mean high water and plant the entire area. It's not looking to be used as a recreational beach or anything like that. Just bring that up to a more natural level, similar to what's on the other side of the groin. And then this existing coastal bank is in pretty rough shape. It's severely eroded. There are some images in our land management and coastal stabilization protocols. There's also some invasive species and some non-native species such as the Japanese black pine. Black pine, as I'm sure many of you know, is somewhat of an odd species. I don't completely understand the biology. It appears to be allelopathic. We frequently see sort of sickly black pine stands in a very open understory with not a whole lot growing underneath it. I haven't seen a lot of data to support that, but certainly an abundance of anecdotal information, and you just don't tend to see that around, like, say, pitch pine, which is the next most common native species. So on the bank, it's really just a little scattering of a little bit of bayberry, a little bit of American beach grass near the bottom, and then rugosa rose and black pine. And there's not much of any of it. It's probably a single-digit percentage cover over the entire coastal bank. So we're proposing to install a fiber roll array, pre-vegetated, eight fiber rolls high, the upper half being pre-vegetated, the lower half being a higher density to take some of that wave impacts to cover it and facilitate the growth of the plants, and also to provide that important function that coastal banks play as a sediment source. And we would propose to carry that from basically the existing rock revetment return down to about 15 feet or so from the property line, to leave a little buffer to the property line, and the beach grass planting would extend along the front of it over to the groin, trying to create a little bit more of a natural shoreline. That's really those are really the only proposals that are before you. Access would be off the existing dirt drive, through the existing paved parking area, and you'd have a construction access over the existing revetment where it's lowest and the grades are the most friendly. We would cover that with sand for access, put crossover mats over that, and then enter onto the beach and traverse the beach where it's sandy and there's no vegetation in order to get over to that side. Same thing at the groin. Cover it over with sand, pad it, and then travel. Small equipment as we typically use. There's an invasive plant management component to this. You may recall, as part of this redevelopment project, there was an invasive plant management program put in place. Another contractor's working on that, or is getting ready to work on that. So we're proposing to do the same and to come over and sort of sink in with that around our end of the project area, which really wasn't part of the earlier filing. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission might have.
Okay, thank you. Jim, did you want to make a presentation, or you just to take questions, or?
I'm just here to hold them up. No, I'm here to answer any questions.
I'll bet we've all read Jim's report.
Yes. Thanks, okay. Kevin?
No questions.
Maury?
I had a couple. First off, the profile of the eroding bank seems much steeper than what you're showing on your plan. And maybe not, but it just felt very steep there.
Yeah, I've found that they often, when they're plotted up, they do look shallower than they appear in actuality. Is that the way you're seeing it? It seems, I see that in almost every profile. That I can say that is a survey profile.
Okay.
Mike definitely took that off of the survey, and I think it's just one of those optical illusions.
Okay. Number two, I didn't see anything in the file from NISA.
Right.
And this is in priority habitat?
I don't believe we have received a comment letter from.
And it's really important, because anybody that was out there, the entire shoreline in this area that you're proposing was scattered with horseshoe crabs. And I don't know, you know, it also looks like plover habitat, I don't know, they usually don't tell us what it is. This is not a sandy beach whatsoever in this area, it's a rocky intertidal. It's, the sand is very marginal, it's basically just from the slump of the coastal bank eroding. So to change the dynamics in a natural heritage area, I don't know if that's prudent, I don't know, because we didn't get anything from them. So I think we're gonna have to continue it till we get a letter from them anyway, to know we're not inhibiting something that should not be played with.
Can I make a comment to that, though? If there weren't a storm, that's what would happen. This bank would erode and you'd end up with
I
sand.
understand that, but
Here.
if you look at that bank, it's very cobbly, it is not sandy. It's a very coarse, cobbly, rough bank. And that would be natural. And it doesn't have, there is no beach grass down here, down below, in this area. Over here, there is some beach grass, which is another question, how are you going to put sand and nourish without killing what's already existing there, which has a pretty decent foothold. So those were the concerns of the beach nourishment aspect, because it's 50 to 100 cubic yards, and you want to do maintenance, you want to do long-term replenishment, which is usually what happens. And again, without knowing what we're trying to protect there, plovers don't like beach sand. So that could make a problem for them. And the other question, that this, obviously, the public access there are signs that say nobody can go anywhere across. How do people go along the shoreline?
People walk the shoreline presently. I think I don't think there's a barrier that's being erected.
Oh, no, there's a big sign, stay out.
Well, it's private property sign, yeah.
Yeah, all right, well, usually we have public access, so you, unless you want to swim out to the point of that jetty to get across, maybe we have, the sign could say something more like this, public access, you can't use a beach or something, but chapter 91, yeah, and I would look at your license to see if it is supposed to have chapter 91 access signs there. We've seen them get removed. That's all you can go on. I have more questions, but that's all for right now.
That's what, so my question was, if you were gonna re-nourish this, how are you gonna, I mean, I understand how you're gonna do this project initially, but how would you do it in the future when the house is there?
No.
How would you get,
They're going down across.
They'd come right
Go
along.
down.
They'd have to go across the.
that you do it the same way?
Yeah,
be on the
we've
lawn.
actually reached out to Dan Soline, the architect, to see if, there's a number of herbaceous species already proposed in there, to see if they could be sort of aggregated into a approximately 10-foot sort of
Pathway?
pathway, so that it could grow up because we do that work in the dormant season, so you just cut down the dormant grasses, access it, and then everything starts growing again in the spring. We commonly do that, but this way it's mostly lawn, and then there is a mitigation bed that you may recall from the prior filing that comes in. It's fairly narrow there, and I think the two are not mutually exclusive. Good question.
Okay, I have another question. You were asking about endangered species, but Jen, would they comment on horseshoe crabs?
No.
You'd have to ask DMF.
Yeah, well, I have no clue. I'm just saying that it was littered with horseshoe crabs, but it could be plover habitat. I don't know.
Plovers are in the general area.
Yeah.
They have been known. We
Well, it looked
didn't-
like
The
perfect.
town would be a lot
habitat.
happier if they came over here
I would be so much
and weren't
happier.
on town beaches.
We don't hear this very often, but one of the owners specifically asked about that and said, well, we would just be so happy if there was some nesting shorebirds in our beach. We don't hear that very often, and so they're, they obviously can't, all they can do is let them be if they come and nest, but they are hoping that they nest in this area. They're also interested in bringing osprey to the property.
We have the osprey pole.
Yes. Sorry, I neglected that in my
There
presentation.
are so many osprey nests now and so many osprey babies that I think if you put a pole up, you'll get a nest.
We used to work with Audubon as far as, trying to determine the appropriate spacing from one to the next. And the last time we called them, they said, just put it up. All the rules that they used to follow with respect to territorial dimensions and things like that, they're all out the window because the populations are doing so well. It's great news. But we don't bother Audubon anymore. We just put them up. They're usually successful.
That's it?
That's all I had, yeah.
Okay, Jamie?
Nothing to add.
Steve?
Nothing to add.
Peter?
No comment.
All right.
have one
Coming
more
back to
question.
you, Maury?
Isn't the purpose of an eroding coastal bank for nourishment, to re-nourish?
That's partly why they're adding sand to the,
Well, by
The base
putting the
of it.
quarry log, then there's no more sediment transport from that coastal bank.
We're
Because
essentially trying to
everything's
mimic that with the annual sacrificial sand, which is placed on the seaward side. So as the storms come up, it can naturally take it away, and we try to match that volume.
Well, again, I'm gonna go right back to the narrative, and I'm gonna go back to the site. There is no sand on this beach. This is a rocky intertidal, am I correct? Except for the very small base at the revetment area.
No, it's a matter of semantics from the regulations. Rocky intertidal shore requires that there's a predominance of boulders, which is greater than 10 inch in diameter. It's primarily a sandy cobble beach, but primarily cobble. And I would suggest to you, without talking to the engineer, even though he put in 50 to 100 cubic yards of sand, if Natural Heritage or the commission wanted to match the material, we can come in with the cobble sandy mix. That's not an issue at all. Cobble's available. I've built a cobble berm on the backside of several barrier beaches instead of having to armor them to protect roads. So we can
That's a
match it
possibility.
if that's an issue, particularly if Natural Heritage comes back and says, the project's not permittable because you're putting sand. That can be altered very easily by just putting in a cobble sandy mix. It's readily available.
Well, because it
And in
really
fact,
does
that's what
bother
they're
me
supposed
that.
to do.
Yeah.
You're supposed to match
Match,
what's
well,
there.
I understand that. That's why I'm concerned that this is saying to put beach sand and Ammophila down, and that's not what's there. So you are changing the entire dynamics of the habitat and the structure of that waterfront. So that was my concern.
What's challenging about it from a design standpoint is the groin is clearly
Impeding everything.
impeding things. And so if the groin wasn't there, where do you put your yardstick? It likely was a sandy beach, just like it's sandy on this side, where there's a groin holding that sediment. And on the other side, the groin's certainly impeding that sediment transport. So we were, from a design standpoint, looking at making it a little bit more uniform. Not opposed to putting cobble in there at all. And I think it probably does make sense to see what Natural Heritage is looking for. They may look for different density in the planting of the beach grass. We don't know what the species are either, so we're looking forward to that. We would expect to see that comment within 30 days, but it hasn't been 30 days yet.
Yeah, and there is no threat to any structure of this eroding bank, which is usually the concern, like at Great Bay, the houses were gonna fall in. But here, they elected to put the guest house 75 feet from the top of an eroding coastal bank, when they had plenty of room to move it back. So this is the consequences situation.
I
again.
think there might have been a structure
No, there was
there.
not.
There wasn't?
No.
And we permitted that?
No, I looked at the old file. Okay, thank you.
Did you have another question?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment, and Jim, you could comment on this too. Looking at that bank, I agree with you that if it were eroded by a storm, what would come down is a mixture, and the fines would be washed away by the storm, and you'd be left with a cobble beach.
It's not a, there's probably more sand in that bank than cobble,
Yeah.
but you're right on your point.
But eventually, the sand would get washed
The sand
away.
is going to continue into the system coming out of the bank.
Right.
And with the beach nourishment and the cover that's going to go over You know, and it's important, I think, to what your point about the bank. It's a non-structural, bio and photodegradable project. It's going to be covered and planted. When I looked at the coastal bank that I saw there, and I saw it's going to be pre-vegetated fiber rolls, covered with some type of material, beach nourishment, I really thought this was an enhancement in the function, and I put that in my report. Over what I'm seeing there now, not only are you going to add material for compensating for any material coming out of the bank, but you're enhancing the wildlife habitat issue, which on the bank now is probably nil. So I was just looking at this as
Oh,
an
I
enhancement.
agree with all of that, it's just
Yeah.
that the consequences of what we're putting in the natural heritage area, I just need that clarified.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
against fiber rolls or anything else, I'm just saying that.
Yeah, well, again, we'll wait for natural heritage, but I happen to be part of a nonprofit organization that owns a 4.5-mile long barrier beach, Duxbury Beach, and I've been on the board of directors and the technical committee for about 25 years. And I know that the plovers don't usually nest in heavily cobbled areas. They like a mixture of cobble and sand. So that's, I think, what we're going to end up with when we're doing this project.
Which nature would do if it allowed that bank to keep flowing onto the beach.
Yeah, well, the sand is going to continue to,
Until a storm-
sand's going to
until a
continue to
storm hit.
erode away.
And it's important to note, we haven't seen that. That's not the current condition. It is an actively eroding bank, and there's not sand there presently, so I think that suggests that the growing pace plays a significant role. The other thing to think about is sand, we know, washes away. It gets stratified in a storm, washes away. Cobble doesn't tend to do that, so if you're constantly renourishing with cobble and sand, you're changing it as well, because the cobble will continue to build up and the sand will continue to wash away, and you'll be making it a much larger cobble-based beach. So it's, you know, again, I think we need direction from Heritage to see what's best for the species.
Well, we need a continuance.
I just want to correct Seth on one thing. The sand doesn't wash away. It goes down, drift, and feeds the other area.
Absolutely correct, I stand corrected.
All right.
Let's get a date.
Yeah, we need, we're gonna need a date for the continuance. I don't know if Mike said anything about that.
Well, listening to your last hearing,
Yeah, the options are limited.
right. In the event that Heritage comes back and has no comments, they feel that there's nothing that needs to be added, would you be able to squeeze it into your next hearing, since I wouldn't expect any testimony unless I don't hear any other unanswered questions? And then if they did have comments, obviously we want to be here to talk to you about it. I just wonder if that's a reasonable approach, because you're going to be filling up your 19th agenda probably pretty quick as well.
If that's not too soon for natural heritage, I don't know when the request was
I think
made.
their 30 days is up before the
Okay.
12th, I believe, because it was submitted by the filing
It's
deadline.
up to Jen. It's good.
Let me just tell you what's on your September 12th agenda.
I'm sorry,
Okay?
what?
Let me just tell you what's on your September.
I already know, I don't wanna.
So one of the continueds you haven't even heard yet. So you have 6 new notices,
How about the 19th?
a new amended order of conditions that's gonna be fairly lengthy.
Is that a yes
Seth,
for
I
19th?
would do it if I could, I really would. I'm just afraid.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah. Jim and I actually we have to be in Wellfleet that night, unfortunately,
On the 19th?
on another matter on the 19th.
Could Mike be here? Is that,
Yeah, it really, I guess it just depends what again, I was thinking if there's no comments from Heritage, you probably don't need testimony from us.
Yeah, and if there's no comments from Heritage on the 19th, then
Then we don't have to
if you
come
get
either,
the letter
yeah.
back from Heritage
That's
and
true.
anticipate the need to comment, then just ask for a continuance to the next day.
Yeah, that's a good point. So why don't we go to the
I
next?
mean, I'm afraid of what Natural Heritage is gonna come back and
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know.
We don't know. Usually it's nothing, and I'd take that chance, but with the agenda on the 12th, trust me, I just, if I could, I would.
I understand.
And if they really wanted to, they'd say, no, let's do it. I'll go, okay.
all right,
At
so
the
I
request
guess,
of the applicant, I put a motion on the table to continue this to September 19th.
Second.
all right, any more questions or comments from the board? Anything from the public? All those in favor of continuing to September 19th, say aye. Aye. Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
Well, we had to continue.
Do I have green cards?
Mike has them. He's promised to drop them off first thing tomorrow morning, or if you want, I can ask him to come by from Mashpee. We can drop them off later tonight.
You can drop them off tomorrow morning.
Okay.
We'll be here.
Fine.
We'll be here.
Thank you. All right.
Look at this.
Next, Quistit Arbor House Land Trust Incorporated, 18 Carrie Lane and 71 Quistit Harbor Road, Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to remove invasive plants and to replant with native species on 2 adjacent vacant lots. Good evening,
You
Tom.
have card. Thank you very much, Tom. He is. That wasn't from skiing.
Not this time.
I could tell a tall tale, but it was really just twisted my ankle. In the Alps.
In the Alps?
Yes.
Oh, well, that's okay, that's
That's
good.
going to be a tall tale. Not
Yeah.
high, but
Did you have trouble getting down?
there's a bit of limping involved. For the record, I'm Tom Bunker, DSS Design, representing the Quistit Harbor House Land Trust. We helped Stephen Stimson Associates put together this notice, and Warwick Associates did the survey for it. With me is Joe Waller, a landscape architect with Stimson Associates. Property here is on Carrie Lane. It is on the Buzzards Bay. This print is kind of faded. There's the Buzzards Bay side here between Buzzards Bay and Carrie Lane. Carrie Lane runs up here, and the beach club building is right here. The harbor house is off to the side, and Quistit Harbor is down the hill this way. So you get your bearings straight here. The project will run from, there's stairs and a boardwalk running down the bank from the beach club to the beach. There's a deck in this location for swimming and sunbathing. So the project will run from this boardwalk over to the property where there's a house, and it's bounded by a lawn area here. We have Buzzards Bay, land under the ocean, velocity zone, VE elevation 20 flood zone, which is up to this line right here. And then, of course, the extra 25 feet of velocity zone running through here, which reaches up to Carrie Lane. The coastal bank has been identified as being along in this location. Basically, this hatched area is coastal bank with a zone for the coastal bank, shown here in the orange, and then 100 feet away, the B zone of the coastal bank in this location. So it's, except for a tiny corner, this is all within A or B zone. There's some stone riprap wall here and over here. The entire site is heavily vegetated, but unfortunately with a lot of non-native plants. The vines, Joe will go into more of this, but it's typical viney culprits, black locust plus the native cherries and eastern red cedar in this location. So I was here just to introduce the project briefly, tell you about the resource areas, and then Joe will talk about what's proposed on this site.
Thank you, Tom.
Again, Joe Waller from Stimson. Fairly straightforward. That's probably dangerous to say, but probably some of you have seen the site. As Tom described, most of the work is happening in the buffer zone, mostly beyond the A zone in this band along the perimeter of the site. There's heavy invasives, we have bittersweet, honeysuckle, cultivated grape, and bush honeysuckle, on and on. The list goes on. We also have black locust beyond the coastal bank, which are proposed to be removed, and we have a number of native trees, cedars and cherries, which have been killed by the bittersweet vines. We've been looking at this project for over a year with the Quisser Arbor House Land Trust, made a number of presentations to the Carrie Lane Association, to the Quisser Harbor Land Trust. We've had Horsley Witten as a peer review on the project. We're proposing to restore a maritime shrubland here in the coastal bank zone. Here is a fairly high quality maritime shrubland. There is some incursion of invasive species which are proposed to be removed. The A zone, most of the A zone is also a fairly high quality coastal bank with a nice stand of existing cherry and cedars, which will remain. There's more heavy incursion in that area, which should also be removed of invasive species. And then beyond the A zone is where we have our heaviest density of invasives, and that would be removed by mechanical and hand machinery, all restored with native vegetation.
Thank you. Maureen, you want to start this one?
On the black locust, which we know one, two,
Sorry, I forgot, Jen.
go on, Jen.
Do you have
No,
anything?
don't worry about
Okay,
it, you guys go,
all right.
we'll go after. We didn't really have too many concerns
Yeah,
with the
I didn't have
project.
a whole lot of concerns. Actually, after I saw that the 300 committee had weighed in Horsley and Witten, it made me feel a little more comfortable. The black locust, we all know once you disturb them, they like to take off. And there are some that are over by, I guess it's a beach club or yacht club or something. So, the abutting property.
Oh, you're talking
And-
beyond the limit
yeah,
of this project? Yep.
And, I mean, we all know how lovely those trees are and how hard they are to eradicate. I mean, sometimes you don't even want to touch them because they just seem to sprout up everywhere. The Russian olive that's all along the fence line also, that's not on this plan, but how are you going to keep all of those that are right next to it from going back there?
The Quisset Harbor Land Trust is actually in the process of working with the Woods Hole Group and with Crawford Land Management on an evaluation of their entire parcel with hopes of
Okay, great.
managing that. But
Well,
the
only they're
Arbor-
so
yeah.
close. I mean,
Yeah.
that
No,
whole
you're exactly right. Yeah.
fence line of Russian olives, with the way the
Yeah.
wind blows, it's just gonna reseed, and, you know, if you're gonna cut them down, get rid of those too.
So there is hopes of a greater kind of plan, but
Yeah.
we had to
Well,
choose
it'll
a
take about
project.
20 minutes to get rid of those. We'll change that.
Project,
No.
project boundary, and we
Yeah.
will have management over our parcel.
The mechanical aspect of it, we did get a letter from an abutter that was concerned about the disturbance to the
Of the
stone wall.
Yep.
And we'll probably condition that, that's all done by hand, and I can understand the concern. And then the last thing is that I know you, in your narrative, you said that when you clean up the dead trees and whatever, dead trees are great habitat. So I would hope that you would leave some of the dead cedars and cherries that would keep a very viable aspect to wildlife. I mean, birds like the dead bugs, you know, the bugs that are in the dead trees.
Yep.
And it is supposed to be natural.
Right.
So dead trees are natural. So once you get the invasives out of them, I think they should be left to stand and fall on their own and be part of the ecosystem. And other than that, I thought the project was very practical and a lot of work.
Great, thank you. Kevin?
No questions.
Betsy? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Like once I get, once I saw that the 300 had jumped in,
Mhm.
I'm
Okay.
fine with it.
Okay. Betsy?
I think it's a nice project to save a little bit of the coastal shrubland that exists. It's actually amazing how many little islands of natural habitat do exist.
Right.
Great. Jamie?
I agree. I think it's a nice project. I have no questions.
Steve?
Yeah, I appreciate them continuing to maintain this and work on this. I was concerned about the abutter, the issues. I was surprised by the letter. was well-written and considerate, and I hope that you'll take that in. I assume that you've
Yeah,
reviewed
I've been
that.
in contact with them and
Yes.
do plan handwork along that wall and
Right,
preservation of it.
We're going to require it, so.
okay, thank you.
Okay, Peter?
Looks like a nice project for the environment. No
I'll
questions.
second that.
One last thing to say.
Okay.
The truck spec platform down below, that huge in the V-zone deck,
The existing deck here.
yeah, has that been there forever, permitted?
I would have to defer to
Okay.
Dana Roden.
Dana Roden, I'm president of the Quistit Harbor House Land Trust. Actually, the picture on the restoration booklet is a picture of structures that were there around 1900, much more extensive than what's there.
This one?
Yes. So you're looking north there to the house, actually, that's been replaced by the modern house, the abutter. And I actually have in my bag a postcard from about 1910 that's taken from. I'm not sure when the view was taken, probably before that, but the postcard's dated actually 1911. And so there were structures there at least as early as that on both sides, and much more extensive than what's there now. And those morphed at various points in time. For example, the bathhouses that show in that picture washed down to Racing Beach intact and were brought back up to the top in the 30s, and then were replaced by simpler structures, no bathhouses, decks on both sides. There's no longer a deck on the south, but in some form, those decks have been there since at least that long, but not.
The Trex deck is what threw me off.
Yeah.
Because Trex is really not old.
Yeah, no, that's fur, that's not Trex.
Oh,
It's
no,
painted.
No,
There's
that gray one?
Yeah, no, that's paint on fur.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have proof of them, then I'm fine.
I'm going to make a motion to close the
One
hearing and
second,
take it
Jen.
under
Oh.
advisement.
Just a quick thing, the board actually has to take 2 votes. You have to close your hearing, but you also have to take a vote that it's in compliance with the CR. Your staff has read the CR, and we agree with the 300 committee. I didn't get a chance to forward you all the CR. If you want to take that vote at a later date, I know the 300 committee's board meeting is, what, early September?
September 4th.
Yeah, so, I mean, we could put that on a later agenda so they could get moving, or you can trust your staff that this complies with your CR. But you do ultimately have to take 2 votes on this project, 1 for the order of conditions and 2 in compliance with the CR.
Does it matter which order we do?
No, it doesn't. So
All
if
right,
you want to
the
put it
motion
at a
on the
later
table.
date,
Second.
and so you can review the CR, we can send it off to you tomorrow.
Took me a minute.
Okay, we have a motion to close.
Second.
All right, anything else from the public? All right, all those in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. And,
What's
yes,
the other one you want, Jen?
The CR
So I make a motion that
complies
we
with the
find it
CR.
In
in
compliance
compliance with the CR.
with the 300 committee. Second.
They have 1 CR, you guys have the other.
So it's our
Your
compliance
CR.
and our CR.
yes,
Yeah. So we have a motion and a second.
right.
Yeah.
All those in favor, or all those that agree that it's in compliance, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Thank you. Right. Next, Stephen and Susan Moore, 125 Little Neck Road, West Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to improve the existing driveway, install reinforced turf, install stone drainage swales, ongoing maintenance of the existing subsurface irrigation system, after the fact approval of the existing shed and ramp, mitigation plantings under FWR 1018, buffer restoration plantings under 1039, and landscaping. Jen, let me just say, I love having all the maps cited in the agenda.
Is this a new?
I don't know, it might be an effort saver, but one way or the other, I love it.
Well, there we go.
Assuming that it's compliant with whatever needs to be compliant.
Thank you, Mike.
My name is Michael McGrath. I'm registered land surveyor and professional engineer. Holmes McGrath prepared the existing conditions plan. And we're here tonight with Maria Hickey to describe the work that's described in the notice. This parcel is on Little Neck Bars Road. There's an existing house, and there's already a driveway there, and we're going to alter the driveway by putting in a shell. There's going to be a stone splash pad constructed here, and that's a place that is currently pitching into the wetland. There's also a full 4-inch pipe here that is for the sump drain underneath the house, and that's going to be, that discharges into the wetland. We'll put a stone pad at the end. There is native plants that are being planted. There was an existing small shed here, and there's a bigger shed on the ground, so we're asking for authorization. We're going to have a turnaround of reinforced turf. There's going to be some mitigation plants, then some restoration plants, and then DCPC plants. Whenever you apply under the DCPC, you're supposed to increase the amount of coverage by plants. And there's some proposed, I was mixing proposed and supplemental together. So it's proposed supplemental native understory plantings, and I think Maria Hickey should be best to describe the plants.
All right. Hello, Maria.
Good evening, Maria Hickey from Maria Hickey Landscapes. I love the new setup with the desks. I haven't seen this.
We have, this is the first for us also.
Really?
That
Very
one's
nice.
been there for several weeks, but not this one.
Very nice, very nice. For any of you that have not been out to the site, we have already done quite a bit of planting, and we want to expand on the plantings that we have done to include at least 3 or 4 different species of what we already have existing. We have clethra, we have blueberry, we have viburnum. We'd like to add some winterberry and some viburnum for screening in the backyard. There are a lot of non-native invasive vines that were choking out the existing trees, so we removed, the ivy and things out of the tree to free up the canopy so it wouldn't have that extra weight on it. And the site has really, we've added significant habitat value, for the butterflies and bees and even some of the nesting songbirds. I've spotted quite a few nests since we've done work out there. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Jim.
Maria, did you just say you put winterberry and everything in the backyard?
No, we would like to add winterberry on the side yard.
On the side?
Yes.
And that's in the area where the proposed native shrubs are going for the DCPC?
Correct.
Okay.
And
I'm
what I was
sorry,
saying, we'd like.
I misheard you. I just went, did she say backyard?
No, I just wanted to put some viburnum in the back, in that area that shows mitigation,
Yeah, okay,
proposed
that's
mitigation
fine.
plantings.
Yeah. Okay.
All righty. Peter.
Okay, could you explain what exactly is reinforced turf?
Sure. It's a system that's put down that drains, that allows water to drain through. So it has layers of crushed stone, sand, then a grid, and then you put grass. So you can drive on it, but when it rains, it absorbs the water.
So it's natural vegetation instead of plastic?
Mixture.
Caught on the corner.
No, the grid is plastic, but the best example is across from the Church of the Messiah on Church Street in Woods Hole. There's a green lawn shoulder, that's reinforced grass, so they can park there, and it functions. So go look at that, that's a perfect example. The other place that has it is at the Falmouth Road Race, there was a hell of a storm one year, and there were trucks that got stuck in the turf because it turned into mud. So there's a whole section of reinforced turf that's on the ball field where the end of the road race is.
Okay. The next question, after the fact approval of the existing shed and ramp, could you explain what that is about?
There's been some other previous permitting history in it, and the dotted outline is the footprint of what was shown on some previous plans. There are at least 3 or 4 different applications that the commission's seen. So when we compared what exists to what was shown before, that shed is bigger than what was shown on an older plan. So we're trying to permit. So some of the mitigation plans make up for the increase in the square foot.
Okay. No further questions?
Okay, thanks, Peter. Steve?
No, I have no questions, thank you.
Mhm. Jamie?
Does the shed count as coverage?
Well, they're giving us mitigation for difference.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Betsy?
Mike, this oak tree is in the northwest corner of the proposed reinforced turf, but it's not on your plan. It's a big oak tree.
Very big.
It's healthy, Jan.
It's a very healthy oak tree as well.
Well, I backed into that area, so what you want me to do is add it to the plan.
Yeah, and not take it away when you put your reinforced turf there.
No, there's no plan.
Oh, I backed into that today when I went to look at it, so.
Did you hit the tree?
Of course.
It's there,
I'll be
right?
good and say, no, I did not hit any trees.
And the tree provides fabulous shade to park under, so the tree is not to be touched.
All right, so
All right, we'll
I'm not going to be
condition
here
that.
when that's conditioned, so don't forget.
Right.
I put on it, need oaks to be protected.
All right.
And put on the plan.
Yep, that's my, well, actually, I have one other question. Behind the plant, in your color drawing here, light pink behind the shed, is that gonna be grass and then path?
The light green.
The light green? Here. What's behind the shed?
It's,
To the
stuff
left,
behind
the
there
west.
right now.
Currently, there's native plantings behind the shed.
There's not much behind there, but
Yeah.
garbage cans and mosquito breeders.
So the history behind the shed is the client had ordered a new shed and thought it was identical in size.
Well, I don't need to know the whole story.
Yeah,
I just
and
want to
so
know
we moved
what
it
kind of vegetation
away
is behind
from
the shed.
We moved it away from the wetland because it was sitting right in a precarious area.
She wants to know what the vegetation there is.
Is there gonna be any vegetation, or is it gonna be lawn?
It's not going to be lawn.
Well, the light green indicates lawns, so that's why she's concerned.
Well, currently, they put their trash cans behind, on the back side of the shed. There was a structure that we took off of the shed that had a cover that lifted up, that all the cans went in, but it was full of mice, and
Mike, when you give a new plan that has the tree on it, could you indicate what's gonna be there, whether there's gonna be plantings there or not?
So I understand, basically westerly of the existing shed and the proposed reinforced turf, you want a description of what the future will be there.
Exactly, I mean, if it's lawn, it's fine, but I just wanna know what it is.
If they're putting the trash cans back there now, Betsy, you might as well just keep it lawn or mulch or dirt or something
Right.
like
Well,
that,
that's
because
fine.
they're
I just
going to
want 'em to
continue to
indicate what
use
it
that
is.
as the trash can
Right.
area, which,
I don't have a
I would
problem,
too.
I just wanna know what it is.
Yeah, and it looks as though this is the path to the
Right,
pond.
right.
It's probably all dirt.
Natural trampled.
Yes, I mean, I don't have a problem, I just wanna
Yeah.
know what it is.
All set?
Yep.
All right, Maury?
Couple things. Discharging into the wetlands kind of twitches me just a little bit. Because I think there are options. I think making swales, what's happened there is, there was a lot of fill brought in, and all the plantings are basically in berms. They're not flush to the ground, they're just, you brought fill in, or loam, and you made mounds, and you planted in them. So you literally made a sluiceway for it to come down the driveway now, because of course it's packed down tight. So I would think that there would be some way with your plantings to incorporate more pervious area in those plantings to take up, I mean, it rained hard this morning and I went there and there was hardly any water at the bottom of the driveway. So I think whatever's working there is doing a better job already. But to put splash pads into wetlands, I think we're setting a really funky precedent. Because then everybody that has a problem is gonna say, oh, we can just daylight it, we can, you know, we don't wanna put our dry wells, our gutters in dry wells anymore, because the ground's impervious or whatever. So I think that there are a lot of creative and I know the groundwater there is a big issue. Because I walked across the lawn today and I needed waders. So they might wanna shut their irrigation off as well. The lawn was restructured, I guess, from what I saw from the last RDA. And Jen, did you, in the RDA, did they allow sod? Because that's all sod lawn.
I'm looking up right now.
And I just think that, again, you know, sod lawns are not, I know you can get fescue sod, but that's a lot of bluegrass in that one. And I'm just concerned that it's not functioning in the DCPC as a seeded lawn. I also was very disappointed in seeing the plantings. The plantings are 90% non-native. There was Rosa Sharon, they're beautiful. The plantings are beautiful, but they're not DCPC conservation plantings. Hydrangeas, Rosa Sharon, cherry laurel, autolucan. Even in the woods in the back of the house, there's all new autolucans all planted in there. So I'm just concerned that, you know, we'd prefer viburnums, cedars.
On the whole right side of the driveway, there's viburnum, there's blueberry, there's clethra,
I understand that.
the whole
but
right side going down the driveway.
It's not the whole right side, Marie.
Well, there's like a little strip.
I did the count, and the percentage of native to non-native is not very impressive. And I think that that's half the problem. I mean, if you're not planting native species in there, they're not taking up the water properly. We've never let people in the DCPC plant ornamentals in the wetlands, literally. When you go up the driveway, that berm where you ripped all the vegetation out and put all the fill in there and planted is literally the wetland. That's why it's wet and why you need to put in reinforced turf. I like the idea of the reinforced turf. I think that is a great option to what's over there. But that I think needs to be changed up. Over the septic, what are you planting? You just have plantings. You don't tell us what species over the septic, and this is a leach field, so.
It's listed right on the plan that we were gonna put clethra, high bush, blueberry, winterberry.
So they're all pretty deep rooted when they grow. So how is that gonna affect a leach field? Mike, you're an engineer. We're not supposed to plant over leach fields, am I correct?
No, I don't know of any limitation like that. I know the trees clog them, but I have, well, my system's deep, so mine would.
This is not deep. This is,
No, I understand.
it's probably perched water there.
Well, I didn't design the septic. You've seen this project several times. There was permits
Yes,
for
we denied a
207,
garage.
212, and 218. So I don't know of any of the shrubs that I've dug up that are very deep rooted. So I have limited experience.
Well, I just think that it might compromise that septic, because what a root does is it looks for water. And a septic system leach field is the perfect spot to look for water. And I don't really think that the homeowners need to have a failed system because the DCPC plantings were put there. I think the DCPC plantings might be better off to be put in the front yard where all the ornamental plantings are, to take up the water that sheets off that lawn into the driveway, which is causing you a problem.
I have personal knowledge of two systems, leaching systems that clogged for vegetation, and there were trees, they weren't shrubs. And the perfect example is the Chappaquay Grill. There was a tree that was like this size in a photograph, the next thing you know it's about that size, and the leaching field clogged, the tree roots invaded it. I've seen that twice, but I've never seen shrubs affect a leaching field in my experience.
No, I have, so. That's why I would not have brought it up if I wasn't concerned and have seen issues with it. So, again, the DCPC plantings, that's a really heavily vegetated area. It's on the upland. Maybe put more water tolerant plants down by the driveway where you're having this issue, where the ornamental plantings are, where all the hydrangeas and the arrowwood viburnum and high bush blueberries are, where it says Lot 3 on the green plan. And the only reason, and Mike, I wasn't here for the RDA hearing, but that's why we're here tonight, because the RDA protocol really wasn't followed. This went out a little control over here on this project. And that's all.
Thanks, Maureen. Kevin?
No further comments.
I have a question, maybe it's for Jen, about the irrigation system. Does that even belong in there? Is that a legal system?
We did get, was it in the notice? We did get something from a septic
Genesis
installer that said that back in, was it 2008, they had upgraded the irrigation heads and controller on this property. I have no way to verify
right,
this, but
is it legal? I mean,
just because
if it was, if the irrigation system was previously there, I don't, it's up to you guys.
Well, in the narrative, it said 1995 approximately by the equipment. Well, the DCPC was before that.
Yeah, it probably shouldn't be there.
There's statute of limitations for everything. You're gonna go back to 1995.
Well, I don't know, I'm just raising it.
There are pre-existing non-conforming things like that.
Those are zoning terms.
Wasn't the DCPC in 96?
It's 96, I think. Was it 96? Okay.
So 95.
So you can relax. Apparently the
Calm down.
DCPC was
And
in
actually,
90.
the whole problem with that place is, you might want to really tell the irrigation people that it's over-irrigated, and it's drowning, and it's muck. You can't even walk around the east side of the house without leaving imprints of your foot that big in it. So you might want to just look at that. Could be some of the problems that are causing your driveway irrigation problems.
Mike, is there any way to fit a swale in there somehow? From where your proposed stone splash pad is next to the road and the driveway? Is there any room, any possibility of maybe relocating some of the shrubs, creating a swale?
I could do something very small in that area. This is, what happens here is they have a
That's the
sump
sump pump.
pump, and it only goes off once in a while. And right now, the recon just would be enough to break up the velocity. A stone pad might be a little bit.
Why don't they put the sump pump in the backyard?
It's been there for a long time. So it would seem to me to be very destructive to rip that out, especially that it only goes off once in a while.
Mike, can you look at doing maybe kind of a swale and reorganizing possibly, Maria, the plantings in that area? And looking at possibility of relocating the ones on the septic. The only reason I'm gonna agree with Maury that she brought this up is that I have heard from past applicants that their, and this is just anecdotal, that their systems have failed due to the presence of mitigation plantings on top of the systems before my tenure. I'm thinking of one in particular on Edgewater Drive, where the mitigation plantings went right up to the side of the house and completely over the septic field, and that septic has had to be replaced because it was damaged, and you only had shrubs over there. So if you can just take a look at possibly or reorganizing that, it might appease some of the board members.
Sure. We can shift that bubble.
Yeah.
More to, that's not a problem.
Yeah. Reorganize it, and
Yeah,
maybe
not a
some
problem.
of the plantings that you have down in the corner of Little Neck Bars
Yeah.
and the driveway, maybe incorporating some of those in the front, taking out more of the, how do I say this, not offensive ornamentals, but some of the ornamentals, and replacing with some of those and constructing a small swale in that area with some nice sedges and rushes and something like grasses that'll absorb that water. I've seen some really nice vegetated stormwater swales, and I think you could do a nice job. So if you look at that, possibly, I think that's where the board's leaning, correct?
Well, I just think in the DCPC, I don't ever know when we've let them plant up against a wetland with any non-native species. So I'm not in favor of any non-natives against that isolated wetland where they've removed all the supposed invasives. And we never say, oh yeah, you can throw some hydrangeas and some Rose of Sharon. I mean, it's setting a precedent. It's not that it's not pretty, it's beautiful, but it's setting a precedent.
But what you were talking about is across the road.
Right here. That's all, it's got hydrangeas and autoleucans and Rose of Sharon. It's beautiful.
It's actually, they're not autoloitans, they're Shipkinesis.
Whatever.
But the reason behind, there were ornamentals on that fence and in that strip. And I swapped them out with ornamentals that are known to absorb water and road runoff because I was trying to protect the wetland.
Well,
the road is higher than their property. Every time it rains, the water from both directions comes into their property. I was trying to protect the wetland by planting ornamentals that'll absorb the water and not get into the
Well,
wetland.
then I would find natives that absorb the water. I'm sorry, I mean, it's just, if everybody comes in front of us and it's, it's good for everybody. I mean, we do not allow people to do that. I mean, I'm sorry.
With all due respect, for probably 15 years, there were non-native ornamental shrubs and roses along that fence. I heard it from the whole neighborhood when we took the roses out. They were all mad. Why didn't, put the roses back. We like the roses.
We can deliberate on this.
Yeah.
Are you making a motion?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
So you're comfortable that we're gonna condition all these things, new plans, and?
No, not really.
You don't want to continue?
Well, I would like to see it continue for the swales, because I
Mike,
still
can you
think,
continue it for the swale? And look into doing the swale?
and moving the
The
DCPC
19th, Mike.
plantings.
I can't make it any earlier, I would if I could.
So, I ask for continuance to September 19th.
Thank you.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this to September 19th.
Second.
All right, anything else from the board? Anything from the public? All those in favor of continuing to September 19th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Thank you both.
Betsy. attach those to the regular files, please. Somebody can give up one in here.
What am I attaching them to?
All right. Next, we have Town of Falmouth, care of Tarja McGrail, 744 Main Street, Falmouth, Mass., for permission to improve existing driveway, relocate a utility pole, sidewalk improvements, and installation of stormwater management system. Good evening. Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, Taria McGrail, opposed to
Sorry.
the hearing. Oh, it's okay. So I'm here tonight on behalf of the Town of Falmouth and the proposed Falmouth Senior Center project. And I'm looking to receive your approval for some driveway improvements to the driveway that currently exists at the property's intersection with Dillingham Avenue. So looking at the plan, the resource area that we have in the vicinity is Morse Pond, and showing the edge of this highlighted in pink, and I'm showing your A zone in red, and then the heavy blue line shows the 100-foot buffer. We also have just closer to the pond from the proposed work, there's also an AE flood zone at elevation 10. All proposed work is just upland of that boundary. So what I'm showing you here, if you can see in shaded blue, is going to be the proposed driveway that we're looking to install. The driveway is a realignment of the existing paved curb cut that's there today, and it's an improvement to the gravel driveway that's also there. So as the project moves forward and they install the Falmouth Senior Center, what they're looking to have is this existing driveway will go from a dirt driveway to a paved driveway that's one way, allowing people to exit onto Dillingham Ave. So that's the background to the project. What I've also included tonight is a photo of the existing conditions, so you can take a look and I can point out a little bit better what we're looking to relocate as part of the project. So as I mentioned, we're looking to realign this existing curb cut. What we're going to be doing is shifting it over closer to where this utility pole is today. This utility pole is going to be relocated to make room for the new curb cut. And then as these sidewalks are disturbed, we'll replace them and make sure that they remain ADA accessible. The fencing that you see here will also shift so that it maintains the same level of fencing that's there today. It's just going to shift to better support the new alignment. Overall, at the closest location, the proposed work is about 46 feet from the edge of the pond. What we've tried to do here is propose grading that will direct stormwater towards some proposed swales and also a stone infiltration trench. All of this is located greater than 100 feet. At closest, it's about 115 feet from the edge of the pond. So with this project, we have driveway improvement. We have a new stormwater management system going in. So overall, it's an improvement. There is a minimal increase in coverage with the new layout. Calculated, it's about 70 square feet. So in here in green, you can see the area of existing pavement that's going to be removed in this area, and you can see how we're just shifting it over to the left-hand side of the plan. So if you have any questions?
Thank you. Before I forget, I think we need to have you put that, enter that photograph in the file if we don't already have it. You don't have to do it. I mean, we can leave it there till the end of the hearing, but we do need to collect it from you. Okay, let's see, Jamie.
Can we get rid of that shed?
The Pop Warner shed?
Worth a shot. I have no questions. At the gate? Yeah.
It's not on the picture.
Well, it's shown
It's Photoshop.
it's shown to remain at this time.
Another year, it's gonna fall over anyway.
No, nothing?
No.
Okay. Jen, I'm sorry, I forgot to see if you had anything
No,
on this.
I'll wait till you guys are done.
All right. Steve?
Yeah, my questions don't, I'm sorry, I don't completely address the conservation concerns, but
He's curious.
the reason it's one way
The reason it's one way is because they want to encourage traffic to exit the site onto Dillingham. And also, we're trying to minimize new pavement in the area, so having the one-way movement of traffic allows us to have a 16, 17-foot wide driveway instead of going to a full 24-foot width. As you may recall from the site, there's a walking track that's out there that goes around the field, and so there's limited space. And then also, as you get further up away from the pond, heading towards Gus Canny, there's a existing batting cage and some other storage facilities.
I've actually been stationed in the shed on numerous occasions for the baseball games. But the reason for moving it at all, the realignment?
Yeah, the reason for the alignment is, well, we're trying to improve the radii as you exit. So now
that makes sense.
With more vehicle trips coming out from that side, currently it's pretty restricted. So with more vehicles making movements out of there, it needs a larger radii to make the right-hand turn.
And it'll be right turn only? To an intersection light at Dillingham and 28? This is a lot of senior citizens. I mean, this is a safety issue, but not conservation.
Yeah, and
So, Madam Chair, I apologize.
Some of this is also a result of previous discussions and some changes to the curb cuts that are occurring up on Main Street. So I don't know if you're familiar with the background on that portion, but there's a new right-in only access point that's proposed up there. And then this is part of the circulation around the site.
Mm-hmm.
This helps reduce the amount of trips going back out to Main Street and trying to move through that area.
It's more than we
I
need to
won't
know
comment.
about
Yeah,
conservation.
I
it's
won't
beyond
comment on
conservation,
another
but-
issue.
Right, this is definitely not our
that you just walked
jurisdiction.
into.
Okay, that's it?
Thank you.
Certainly. Peter?
No questions.
Okay, Betsy?
Thanks, that was a nice presentation. Even the extra.
Maureen?
All set, thank you.
Kevin? All right. Jen?
No.
I move that we, I'm sorry, Mary. Close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
All right, anything else? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
Want these? Because I
And we,
wrote
in the
down any
picture,
of the
please.
issues, and these are very expensive, and you're gonna have a lot of people bidding. So,
Yeah, would you like them?
yeah. We may not have them, I'm sorry. Well, you.
It is a lot of paper,
Did
but
you
we're
bring your
trying to save it
wheelbarrow?
all. That's for me.
Thank you,
I'm
yes.
sorry to burden you, but
No,
they're
that's a
just
good
such
idea.
Well, I just know all the contractors, and everybody's gonna want them, and there's all sorts of other parts to the components of the plan.
Thank you.
They could probably auction that shed off, Jamie. It's historic.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
And Sears will want it.
Yeah.
All right. Now we have James Kerrigan, 28 Ashley Drive, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to construct new single-family dwelling with usual appurtenances, new Title V septic system, and associated landscaping, filling, and grading. Applicant also requests a variance from the Falmouth Wetland Bylaw to use the historic top of Coastal Bank rather than the current top of Coastal Bank. Good evening, Jack.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Jack Holmes, Paul, I'm a civil engineer and contractor. I have an office at 632 North Falmouth Highway. Yeah, I think to begin, I'll explain briefly the site, but then I'll explain why we're requesting the variance.
Jack, you need to have the microphone.
Yes, thanks, Jen.
Not a problem. Thank Brendan. he's
Sorry
the one
about
just
that.
noticed it.
I'll begin by describing the lot, then I'll explain to you why we're requesting the variance to use the historic coastal bank. The lot, starting in the upper left-hand corner, begins here, goes down 170 feet, across 100 feet, back 121, 23 feet more or less, 55, and then back to the point at the beginning, 50 feet. It's 14,482 square feet. It's fronted on a road to our southwest and due east to White's Landing Road, a public way. The plan you're looking at here, I think, will be different than the plans you have before you. and I need to explain a little bit of that.
Hang on 1 second, Jack. Everybody had a plan before them that was brought in today
Tonight.
as a result of our conversation with Jack yesterday. Jack, what's the plan date on your new plan, so we can make sure everybody's...
8/22/18.
Plan. Your revision date would be right down there.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody on 8/22?
Yes.
Steve, Jamie?
I'm on 8/22.
Okay.
The other one?
Yeah.
All right. And what that did is that shifted. Okay. Go on,
Okay.
Jack.
Yeah, the staff was kind enough to meet us. It's just because of our schedules, they couldn't be met earlier. We met with them yesterday. They gave us some input. We responded by making the changes and submitting them today.
I'm sorry.
So the plan that you have before you has changed. I'll explain the changes a little bit later. What I'd like to do is explain to you what our dilemma is. Right now, looking at this plan, the top of Coastal Bank follows this area, or this line. From this point, westerly, southwesterly is the new Coastal Bank. That new Coastal Bank is the result of the construction that was done by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts here, as well as over here. I met with the staff probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 weeks ago. We discussed this issue, and Jen said that if you can make a compelling case, that she thinks that the board would be sympathetic to allowing us to utilize the historic bank. But for us to prevail, we have to show you how we determine where the historic bank is. Some of you will recognize these topographic plans. They were produced in 1975, and I know the engineering surveying community has used this extensively. This gives us a picture, a two-dimensional picture of what this shorefront looked like in 1975. And the area we're talking about is right in here. We then, because it's hard to determine exactly where the coastal bank is, we then took that same image, blew up a portion of it at 50 scale, which is here, and then we took the same image and we blew it up at 20 scale, which is the scale of your plan. And our lot basically is right in this area. In fact, this is an old foundation. There's a curb cut here, and those are shown on our plan. There's actually, that curb cut is there, and what I've shown in maroon is the foundation that we located. For those that went out in the field, you would found numerous stakes of varying colors.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when the party chief came back and I took a look at him, I said, I'm confused and I know what I'm doing. So we sent you a wetland staking plan that's codified by color. We gave you 3 copies. It's not required, but we felt anyone who was going out in the field, if they were half as confused as I, would need that. So hopefully you could make reference to that, and the staking that's in the field is thorough, extensive, and color-coded, and if you need clarification of it, I'll give it to you. The bottom line is that, going back to the coastal bank, is this change in coastal bank was the result of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts coming in and petitioning to get a launching area as well as widening the road. These contours are quite steeper . That photograph is right in here. These contours are quite steeper. In fact, you can see this is the 10-foot contour, this is the 12-foot contour, this is the 14. And you can see how broad and flat it is. And so this line, what we did is we overlaid this line as well as these two on our plan. This line here represents more or less that bowl line that I just showed you. If we're not permitted to use this, the 50-foot setback requirement that you specify in your zoning your wetlands bylaw would put us back through here. And we would be unable to, in my opinion, plus the 10 feet, be able to build a structure on here with a septic system, a driveway, and all the normal appurtenances. So I think the first thing I have to do is ask you if that is problematic. That can we proceed with the rest of the presentation, assuming that the board can accept us utilizing this top of coastal bank instead of this coastal bank?
Well, I think, Jack, they're gonna have to,
You want me to proceed, that's fine.
I would like you to
Fine.
proceed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do
I
your
think
whole
you
So-
presentation and we'll deal
so
with
now-
everything at once.
Now what we've done is we've utilized this top of coastal bank and we've placed a house on the lot. Based on the input by the staff, what we did is we, actually, the plan that we submitted, we moved additionally further back because we wanted to try to maintain the 50-foot plus the 10-foot. So here we have 61.3 feet to the top of bank. Here we have 109.8 to the top of the vegetated shoulder on the roadway. And I guess I should explain. These are the sidelines of the road. Directly opposite and parallel to the seaward side of White's Landing Road is a 3-foot grass shoulder. Directly east of that is a 1-to-1 slope of, they're wetland plants, but they're doing poorly. The construction that took place destroyed a lot of that habitat. There's a sprig of small salt marsh here, and there's an ever so small sprig of salt marsh in this area at the bottom of the slope. The slope is approximately 1-to-1. There's about 5 feet vertical difference, so this is about a 5-foot wide strip. We have marsh elder there. Like I said, there are a couple sprigs of salt marsh, and it's a poorly competing wetlands area. And this is ancillary to my project, but I don't see this getting robust if they don't do something in the way of stabilizing the shoreline. In fact, I think they have to stabilize it, otherwise they're going to be in jeopardy of losing the shoulder and possibly part of the road. But that's another issue. So what we did is we located the road, we located the shoulder, we located the bottom of the wetland area and the 2 sprigs of salt marsh. And what we did is we placed the structure so it complies, I believe it complies to the intent of the local bylaw. We showed the 75-foot A buffer. We showed the 100-foot buffer from the salt marsh highlighted in orange, and we show a 100-foot buffer from the BVW directly behind it. Now, we haven't strictly complied with the 100-foot setback to no disturbance. Right in this area, there is some minor disturbance, so what we've done is we've proposed mitigation planting along here. That mitigation planting is going to be about 345 square feet. I realize that the board would like to see a 10-foot area around the perimeter of the house. In this particular area, we have like 8.5 feet right here. So in light of that, what we propose to do is mitigate by planting in that area. Everything to the west of this line technically is out of your jurisdiction. So So the driveway's here, the septic system's here. I think they're non-issues. The back of the house is kind of a non-issue. In order to maintain and control surface runoff, we're proposing 2 leaching pits. This pit will connect the conductor pipes on this side. This leaching pit will connect the conductor pipes on that side. And we're proposing to have this drain into that catch basin here, right over here. We're providing the water here to the house. And that's the whole proposal.
Thank you. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'd just like to clarify a few things. Jack, one quick question before we start. What is that little hashy dashed line?
This in here, that's what we propose to plant.
It doesn't say plantings.
Oh, okay, so that's your plantings.
Yeah, this relationship has been dynamic with the client, and he's had so many bridges to cross.
It should be
He couldn't
labeled,
tell
though.
me what he wanted to do, so I just wanted to tell you that we're going to mitigate in this area. If you need a series of plants, we would be happy to provide them.
You should at least label it
It
that
needs
it's
to
gonna
be
be
labeled.
plantings.
I'm sorry, what?
You need to label it.
I probably should.
But Jack, you have, Jack,
You're gonna have
the reason
to.
I'm confused, the reason I'm confused with the vegetation is that you have a completely vegetated site anyway, so, anyway. So just to clarify part of Jack's, presentation, he came to me with this lot, asked if there was a chance on some relief from the setback to the existing top of coastal bank. And I guided him that since it was the town and the Commonwealth project that changed the top of that coastal bank and shifted it much closer than where the coastal bank was originally, that if he could provide evidence to this board that he could build the house in accordance with the historic top of coastal bank and all the setbacks, that staff could support this.
Okay, thanks. I'm gonna just say that, that in principle, I'm fine with this, but I would like some more information in the record as to, you know, the deed, when the applicant purchased the property, and, you know, the deed would have the description of the property.
You mean the bounds?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
we could provide.
I'm sure you
When the
could.
lot was created, I think that's the
Yeah,
question.
right.
Because actually, what has happened is, I think it's fair to say, Bob is representing the seller. The seller of the property is an elderly family. They want to simplify their life, reduce their real estate holdings. So Mr. Carrigan made an offer to purchase it, subject to getting approval.
Right.
So, I can provide this board when the lot was subdivided or it was created.
Yeah, I was surprised seeing a submission from Bob Almond that didn't contain what I'm asking for. So just, you know, to have it on the record that,
Sure.
that when the applicant purchased the lot, it was as you've described it. And it would be nice, it's not quite as important to me, but it would also be nice to have something for the record saying when the town and the Commonwealth did their project.
I will. I have one
We
question
don't have
for
to worry,
Jack.
we had dealt with that project for a long
Jack,
time.
Well,
you
I'm
not
sure
only
it's-
shifted the
neither one of these
house,
things is difficult.
you made
so.
it bigger.
I didn't change the size of the house, I shifted it away.
The plan that we have no. It's a different configuration, and we got these late today, Jack. It's a different configuration. This.
This is 30, total 54 feet. That's when we have 10. That's 54 feet.
32, 54. No, you got, because you got 32, 54, and then we have this, another 10. We have 64. You changed the width of the house. That's why you're still crossing over that 50-foot buffer line.
Well, I'll take it back to the client.
It is a different,
Yeah.
it's a different configuration around the proposed
Jack?
deck area. The dimensions are different.
Can I go first?
I think we're not quite ready yet. So,
Yeah, that's why he's still crossing the
Whether
line.
it is or isn't, this is what he has in front of us.
Well, let me just make sure I
well, but,
understand.
I
We
mean,
have a
Jen's
plan
gonna
that
be
shows
doing
50
this.
feet
It
here,
has to be smaller anyway.
54 here. And where you are looking.
I'm looking, I think, in that general area. It says, where it says, see this? 18, 10, 10, 22. This is 18, 24. The footprint's different, is what I'm saying. Or trying to say.
So Jack, if you look at where your garage is, you see where you have, originally you have 28, you don't have your original plan with you, but you have 28, and then it comes down and it says 32.
28 and 23.
Jack,
You're looking at,
You know what?
it's irrelevant what the dimensions are. The house has to be pulled back from that 50-foot historical top of bank.
Okay, yeah, right now we're 56 and 54.
You're right on it.
It's over it,
Well, if, it's
This
a,
is the
yeah,
bank.
right. And, right,
and it should be 10 feet back.
yes.
This is where the line of limit of work should be. and
Right.
It should be 10 feet back.
I was thinking we should reduce it from the old one.
I understand.
Yeah, it has to be,
What is happening?
It has to
Just
be
as a point of
reduced and
clarification,
pulled back.
I don't want to waste your time. Let's continue the meeting. What happened is we had a patio over here, and we moved it, which I told you, we had to get approved. And what he did is he put a jog on the house over here, which is what Jen's talking about.
Okay, so the proposed
I understand
patio
that.
is not proposed anymore, is that what you're saying?
Originally, it started here, it came
still
down, went
bigger.
around. I told him that portion of the patio would never be approved, so let's not show it on the plan.
But it's still showing.
But what he, there was a piece right here.
That's not what she's talking about.
I'm not talking
No,
about them.
This piece is still here. If the board says they
That's
can't approve it, we understand.
There's
It
a
has to
portion of that
What I mean
patio in the B zone, or the B zone.
A zone,
A-zone.
A zone. Jack, it has to develop a building envelope that's 10
Oh,
feet
the stop
back
motion
from
zone,
the
right.
old top of Coastal Bank and tell him that's the area
You
that he
mean
has to build a
60
house.
feet from the edge.
Yes,
Okay. That I can deal with. Okay, because right now we have 56 here and we have 54 here. If the message is, I hear clearly, is the principal structure has to be a minimum of 60 feet away from it,
correct.
we will do that.
Because you have an undeveloped lot, Jack, so your no-touch zone to the top of that coastal bank is 50 feet, and then the board has the regulation that the structure has to be 10 feet from that limit of work. And that's just so the contractors can work. We can't have a 4-foot limit of work, I can't approve that.
I understand.
And if you want to plant some buffer plantings out there on the top of the bank, the top of the 50-foot line, that's okay with us. But that structure has to be 60 feet.
Okay.
You don't even need the buffer plantings, Jack, because you're gonna put that limit of work on
Yeah.
that 50-foot no-touch.
But if he wants to give it to us,
Without reducing.
The whole point,
Okay.
okay, guys, the whole point of having the 10-foot limit of work between the limit of work and the structure is 2 reasons.
I said he could put it
Yeah, I understand. You
in the
can,
A zone.
I understand, but you can, construct the house, but then also
You need to
the
access
residents
it,
have the
Betsy.
ability to
Right.
maintain their structure. Trust me, we just looked at one where the resident was told she couldn't do that, and it was, so anyway, that's what I'm saying. I don't think there would be any way to put plantings in the A zone, Betsy, but
No, at that 50-foot line in the, there's space there.
And the goal is keep 50 feet plus 10.
He's gonna want some kind of buffer from this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Madam Chair?
you need to continue.
One moment. Also, I think your plan needs a locus map on it.
And it also needs a PL stamp.
Needs to have that.
Steve?
Okay.
Madam Chair, did we just accept the historic?
No, we
Top
haven't
of that?
accepted anything, I don't think.
All right, but we're having this
We're saying,
discussion.
even if we were to do it, this is what would have to happen.
This wouldn't
Oh, I
comply
understand.
even with that.
But it seems like this discussion is primarily based on the historic.
We're, right, with
Okay.
that in the back of
I
the.
just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, one of the problems our client has is like, he has to move on this, and he has to understand whether or not the board would work, would favorably approve an historic line. If you're not, then it's for naught, because at that point, he can't utilize this lot.
Right.
So that's such a fundamental question. If we can get past that issue, the other issues you described, I'm sure we can work out with the client. This was his wish list, based on what I told him. If that's not gonna work for you, I understand that, but before we proceed, we have to get clarification. If time was not a problem, I would have gone back 6 months and said, let's apply to this. But then again, you may have said, well, we really need to see the whole package before we can rule on it.
Betsy?
So, as you well know, I am almost 99.9% opposed to most variance requests. This is one where you have a clear reason, and I would be comfortable with going with the historic top of the bank.
This was a man-made problem.
It was a man-made problem.
And it was imposed on him, I mean,
Yeah, I'm only
clearly.
at 90%, but I could have gone with it.
Yeah, well, he wants to know before, I mean, he doesn't want to redesign a house and come back and have us say, well, we're not going to accept that.
Like
Exactly.
I guided Jack, if they can cite the house from the quote-unquote historic top of Coastal Bank prior to the boat ramp reconstruction and meet the buffer regulations, the staff could support it.
Right, and
Yeah.
And I would.
I will
we
not
can
support a
too.
project that does not meet those buffer setbacks from the historic top
No,
of
I think
Coastal
what
Bank.
Jack's looking for is some kind of assurance that we've gotten past the variance question, and he will
I
work
think
now
to
go
meet
back
the
with-
other
You will now go
requirements.
back with a building envelope.
your staff is comfortable reviewing this project under the historic top of Coastal Bank.
That's clarification, thank you.
Yep.
Yes, so can we?
But you gotta meet those setbacks, Jack.
Yeah.
Oh, I understand the setback.
Oh, yeah.
I
Okay.
understand.
And the
This-
other-
This was sort of like a wish list at this point.
Right.
Don't impose a wish list on me when I ask you to shift the house and then you reconfigure it and make it larger and then put the plans on my desk at 3:30. Ever again, Jack.
You're lucky it's a longer meeting than we thought, and we're being very lenient on you. You know, we do not like to see things at the end.
We're working it out.
Yes, we don't like these last-minute submissions. That's, sometimes I don't let people, I tell them to come back
If it was
another
just
day.
a shift of the house,
So, is there, Kevin, you want to say something?
I just want to be sure that it's clear that the person that we're talking about here purchased the land prior to the state coming in and.
Right.
No, that's not the case. There's a couple who are retired who want to dispose of this lot because they want to simplify and they want to reduce their real estate holdings. The woman sells it for, I think, 35 years. She's trying to sell it.
So she's not the one who had this change imposed on her land?
She is the one who had it.
She is.
Okay.
She's the one.
But now there's a purchase and
She's putting it
sale.
on the table, she wants to sell it. And unless someone can build on the lot, she cannot basically sell it.
Okay, that's what I thought it was, but I just thought you said the opposite of that, that when this project happened, somebody else
Someone
owned
asked me,
the
is
land.
the owner of this property the applicant? The answer is no. The prospective buyer is the applicant.
Well, that's not the applicant of record. The applicant of record on the Form 3, I think, is the owner of the property, and should be. And you have a purchase and sale agreement in here from a gentleman
That's right.
He's the buyer.
He's showing standing that he can.
I understand that, and that's fine, and I assume he's paying for this whole
Right.
rigmarole.
I guess
but-
you would say he's.
But the applicant is the owner.
She is transferring her ability to apply to Mr. Kerrigan.
She can't.
She can't do that. The owner of the property has to be the applicant. and that,
Mary, not
It's not
necessarily.
true?
Not necessarily, the owner, an applicant can go forward with an application as long as they have the property owner's permission.
Permission of the
Right.
All
property
right.
owner.
All right, I just want to look at the
Standing,
paperwork
yeah.
again, because I was confused. I looked at it, and it seemed to me
Okay.
that you were listing her,
The owner.
a property owner, okay.
So applicant is Kerrigan.
Okay,
owner
I take it
is-
all back, I'm sorry,
Mark.
and,
That's all right.
and I'm fine,
Fair question.
I'm fine with it.
They
But
provided
still, we need the deed.
Not a problem.
Just to say that this wasn't imposed upon the new owner, because he doesn't own it.
Right, well, I just want to know that whoever is involved in this
Basically, it's
transaction, this
Worthless
application,
for her if she can't.
Excuse me?
is
I mean,
dealing with the piece of
basically,
property
it's
that
worthless.
got
This
changed,
property would be
not
worthless,
since
and it wasn't
piece of
her
property got
fault that it became worthless. Right.
It's devalued.
So you're set, right?
Yes.
You need it, we need a date from you.
What we're going to do is.
Well, I don't know that everybody's asked the questions yet, but,
Okay.
I think the better question is we should probably provide you the date of the subdivision. Because you
No,
want to
no.
make sure that it wasn't reconfigured. That's.
yes, I want to make
That is
sure
the
that,
issue.
that what we're dealing with
And the deed will be consistent.
is,
The deed's going to refer to a lot on the subdivision plan, so we will give you both.
right,
Okay.
and, yes. And when did the project take place? The landing?
I think 2014.
Yeah.
still
a couple of
ongoing.
years ago.
Okay.
Still under,
Oh, yeah.
we're still
They
working
were,
on
they
it.
were working there while I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I said earlier in my
They had to redo it.
presentation that.
I think last summer I was out there with those guys.
Okay, but yeah, as long as we can have that in the record, I'm comfortable with it.
doing the road, too.
I got the message.
We'll have to
We'll
redo
change
the
some
landing.
detail, we'll remove some things, we'll add some things, we'll make the house conform to your plans.
Okay, I just want to make sure before we vote on continuance that everybody who has questions for you has been able to ask them, because it's been a little off the rails.
I'm fine.
You're okay, Peter? Okay. Jamie, did you have anything else?
I'm good.
Okay. You've said what you want to say?
Yeah, I would love to close, I would love to get a continuance.
Yeah, Maury?
I just had one question. Why did you make the house bigger when you knew that the coastal bank was an issue either way?
It was a mistake, he said.
I
Oh,
originally
I'm sorry.
filed this
It was a mistake on his.
based on what I thought he wanted. He and his wife got together and they changed their mind. That's the
So they made it
only thing.
bigger?
Yeah, he said, well, I told him, you really should tell me what you absolutely want so I can put it on the plan. He showed me the original design, like I
Okay.
said, more. I said, that's not gonna work, so what they did is they took that, they put something over here, and we will talk to them.
Okay.
We'll get it to comply, that's the deal,
Yep, thank you.
okay?
Kevin, anything? All right. So, a date. Would you like to request a continuance?
Absolutely. For the benefit of my client, I'd like to continue to the next available.
Okay?
The next available is September 19th.
Okay.
At the request of
Closest one it is.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this to September 19th.
Second.
All right, anything else?
Yes,
All
just to make sure that he knows that he needs the PL stamp, he needs the
locus map.
locus map.
When the town did the
When the
project.
town did the project, the deed, or subdivision, and.
Both.
And
Are you
both,
writing this
and-
down, Jack?
And make sure that your plantings are indicated on the plan.
If you are gonna have planting.
Okay. And check your lot coverage, because I think they were the same.
I think we're okay, Maureen.
Okay, thank
We're
you.
at 15.9%.
Oh, no, you just,
It looks like a lot.
Jack, and just for the record, the next time that we ask you to shift a house, and you say you were, and you come in with a bigger house, I'll shut this hearing down right away. No, 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 no,
You know
no,
what? I
no.
understand.
I believe you do. All right, so, all those in favor of continuing to September 19th, say aye. Aye. Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Okay. Thank you, Jack.
Naughty, naughty, Jack.
Jack, can I just make a suggestion? And that is, when you go to talk to the client, could you show them a lot? Could you show them a plan that has a building envelope on it? And tell them that whatever they want to do has to be within that envelope? It's not just you. I mean, I wish all the engineers would do that.
When I did it, I gave them a 50-foot offset, and I quite frankly forgot about the 10-foot additional people wanted. So when I originally gave him a plan, he went one direction, then sort of midstream, I said, oh, shit, just being
Well,
honest.
just in the future. This is just a suggestion for the future.
No, the offset should be 60 feet. No.
Many engineers have heard about a building envelope from Betsy over the years.
Wouldn't that simplify some
It
of our
would.
issues?
It would. This, I guess, should go in the record. It was submitted tonight.
All right.
These are your,
Who did this come from?
Jack.
Weiner? Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
What was that?
Oh.
These things that you left in front of me, these have to go in the record.
No, we have a
Oh,
set
you
in the
have them
record.
already, okay.
We have a set in the record. Brendan and I have a set over here. I threw a set on the main
You
table.
have everything new in the record. I can close the book
You
for the
can
night.
check and see if exhibit A, B, and C are in there, but I'm pretty sure I shoved them in there.
Ah, they are.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so, did we vote?
Yes.
I'm not sure. Vote again.
I think we didn't, actually. All those in favor of continuing to September 19th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Thank you. Thank you, Jack. All right,
I am so glad I'm gonna be in Falmouth that night, but not this Falmouth.
so, this continued request for a hearing under a notice of intent, Bradley and Elizabeth Weiner, 14 Maker Lane. This has been continued to September 12th. So now we move on to our voting orders of conditions, and there are only two.
But the first one is,
77 Bay Road. It's a road-icky one.
Raised walkway.
The raised walkway. Betsy,
want
yes.
somebody to start?
I'd love it.
Okay, I'll start. We can talk about the velocity zone, and I think Jen should make a finding that it's in the velocity zone, and that we don't allow new docks in the velocity zone without, they have to meet all these stringent conditions. But to me, what's even more relevant is that this is in the A buffer zone, and we allow a 4-foot path through the A buffer zone, but we don't allow large structures to be put in the A zone. If they happen to be in the A zone before they come to us, if they're pre-existing, then it's one thing. But, so I don't think this meets our regulations.
I don't think it meets the regulations either.
Me neither.
And but I think
that
for 2 reasons.
250, there will be a vote taken, so maybe it'll get approved, maybe not, but I think 256 square feet for that platform is way too big.
But we have to articulate what.
Well, for one thing, when we allow additions to structures in a velocity zone, they can't exceed 200 square feet.
Okay.
That's
one.
Right, so they're essentially 256 square feet over.
Plus more,
Plus the whole
whole
walkway.
plus the
yes,
walkway
right.
part.
Walkway. And all of it, and we should make a finding that it did need a building permit, which constitutes a structure.
Mm-hmm. Very good, yes.
Jen, did you get these?
That it's a structure?
Yeah.
I'm way ahead of you
That-
guys.
All right.
Yeah.
Walkway is a structure.
It
Yeah,
needs
if
a
it
building permit.
It's a structure.
And it's in the A buffer zone, in an intact A buffer zone.
And a V zone.
Yeah, but these are two separate
Yeah,
reasons.
right. Well, I thought we were giving all the reasons.
Yeah.
And this isn't the actual one because the new one has the bump outs on the walkway. Here it is, sorry.
That's right.
Velocity zone.
They added, they made
A
it
buffer.
bigger.
Right.
4-foot wide path is allowable, the walkway is a structure, needs a building.
And the first one was actually on
I did go to this property.
this is the new one. This has these were added.
Poor mother.
Platform. And they put the stairs on this side and a path. And the
It's
old one
troubling.
didn't even have that.
Yes, Steve?
For the record, I'm not on the quorum, although I
Oh, I
was
have
here for
quorum.
the first hearing and was interested, so I'm just sitting here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the quorum for this, sorry guys, is Kevin, Maury, Mary, Betsy, Jamie, Peter. Okay. All you
Yeah.
guys except for Steve.
Jen,
Thanks, that was good.
it's also a coastal bank in a velocity zone, and I don't think you're allowed to have a structure, an engineering structure on a coastal bank in a velocity zone.
I'll check on that. Can you check on that? 3-1. Are you all
I'm
right?
just wondering, I can't remember what the answer to this would be,
I
but the idea, I'm not sure how it's defined in our regs, but the idea of a coastal engineering structure usually means
Yeah, I think it
storm
says
damage protection.
coastal-
I'm not sure we should call it that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a coastal engineering
I
structure.
don't either.
No new bulkhead, revetment, seawall, groin, or other coastal engineering structure. I would not consider this a
Yeah.
coastal engineering structure, Betsy, I'm
No,
sorry.
okay. But it is building on a coastal bank in the
It's a
velocity
structure.
zone.
In the A zone. And
Well, it's in the A buffer to this stuff, but it's actually in the coastal bank.
Let's see,
Coastal bank is 1030?
10:30. So there are additional.
Dump is too long.
I think I needed that. There are additional. Actually, coastal engineering structure is defined in your regs, means but is not limited to any breakwater, bulkhead, groin, jetty, revetments, seawall, weir, riprap, gabions, marine mattresses, sandbags, or any other structure that is designed to alter wave, tidal, and sediment transport processes in order to protect inland or upland structures from the effects of such processing.
so it's
The walkway
definitely
is not considered a coastal engineering structure.
Okay,
I think we covered them all.
are we ready?
Okay, wait a minute. I have velocity zone, no new docks in a velocity zone. In a buffer, a 4-foot wide path is allowable. The walkway is a structure. If it needs a building permit, it is a structure. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, guys?
Well, I mean, we always tell people that.
Wait a second.
Where are you,
Except
Beth?
as permitted in FWR 10.135, which is the engineering structure, no project shall be permitted on any portion of a coastal bank that is within the velocity zone.
Okay, hang on, Beth.
That's
I was just- Yeah, I know, I was just
10.307B.
reading that.
Right.
Hang on.
Not, and we always, I mean, I hate being in this, but, yeah, I hate taking this position when called for, but we always tell people that the particular owners and occupants of the property are not in our purview. We, you know, we determine, make decisions based on the property and the regulations and not who needs what at any given time, because the decisions we make go with the property pretty much forever.
Why do you hate to say that? Jen
Because
said it
it's-
because she didn't want me to have to say it, because I'm the one who
Because I'm
always said it.
sympathetic to this circumstance. I don't like saying no.
We don't know what the circumstance,
Well,
we just
okay.
know what people
We know
said
what
was
we've
the
been told.
circumstance was.
And we also know that, you know, of late, we've been asking people about how big a boat are you gonna get, and we shouldn't be asking them. Doesn't matter.
I don't ask.
Anyway,
So we got that
So
one?
you got that one, Jen?
10.307B.
Jen?
Oh, I'm reading it, hang on. You're talking about 6, right?
7.
10.307B.
Except as permitted under FWR 10.305, which is bulkheads, blah, blah, blah. No project shall be permitted on any portion of a coastal bank that is within the velocity zone.
Okay, I get what you're saying, Betsy, I really do. Here's where your staff has, I'm just telling the road we're going down. Walkways down a coastal bank in a velocity zone.
It's a pathway.
You have permitted walkways down a coastal
We
bank
have
in a
permitted-
velocity zone.
We have permitted stairs, which is a path, that's an extension of a path.
Mhm.
I can do that. This is a 256 square structure
All
that's
right,
in
I'm
the
just
coastal
throwing
bank.
that out for you guys, okay, all right?
yeah, there's the platform and there's the walkway.
Okay.
And so what Jen is talking about is what?
They were
is-
asking for,
Is the fact that we've permitted walkways, have we permitted 256
No,
square foot
no,
platforms?
no. And you could make an argument that you've permitted walkways down steep coastal banks when there's no other access to the water from the property other than means of a staircase. And in
Exactly.
this
Right.
case, the applicant, I'm just throwing it out, okay, I'm just saying, that the applicant does have access to the beach at this point through the existing path that we all walk down.
right,
Is that what you're saying to me?
that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, then we
People are
have to
allowed to
meet the-
have a pathway, are allowed to have access to the water.
Yes.
If
Access to the water.
That requires a staircase down a steep bank that otherwise they'd slide down and have an erosion path. We don't want that. We allow them to have the stairs because
Elevated
that's,
stairway so
Yeah.
vegetation can grow under.
right,
Right.
Yeah,
but that's not what this is.
okay, got it. I just wanna
You want us to
articulate your
articulate it
yes,
clearly.
I want you
Very
to
clearly.
articulate it clearly to me on camera.
Exactly. Where's the camera?
1, 2, 3.
We're on camera, don't worry.
Okay. I'm gonna put a positive motion on the table, but I'm not gonna vote for it. I'm just telling you.
And I'll second it.
Okay, I'm gonna put a positive motion on the table to approve as, this project as it was presented to us.
Second.
All right. Anything else before we go ahead? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, there's no one in favor, so
Motion
4,
didn't
5,
carry.
6 to 0.
Wait a minute. Peter, were you in favor or
He wasn't on the forum.
opposed? Okay, yeah, well, I didn't see a hand raised, so
Steve wasn't.
I just wanted to make sure I
He's not
got
on
the
the
correct
forum, but
vote.
everybody else is opposed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that was
Adamant.
fun.
That was, yeah, they always are.
No, we have one more, guys, Adamant.
123 Adamansett Road. Hey.
The only one I had with this was to have like a split rail fence or something of that type.
Single rail fence.
Yeah, to delineate the buffer plantings to the,
Wetland.
well, it's a.
To the vernal pool.
Yeah.
VP, got it.
Right.
Other than that, you know, the mitigation, the restoration was nice. I'm glad we just showed the trees that have to be taken off along that limit of work.
Yeah,
So
I mean, let's just,
we're not faced with
Right.
it on the construction side of it. And that's fine. If you're fine with the location of the house and everything, I'm good.
And I have a note that we had requested, in terms of the plan, to add the number of trees and the caliper inches being removed.
I didn't get a revised plan with that, I don't believe.
well, you could
Betsy,
ask them
can,
to send that in.
We could require it.
okay, so you want number of trees?
And the total, and the caliper inches that are being removed. It's
Okay,
not really feasible to.
Could, may I?
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's not on this, but it's just a general thing. Could you and Amy send out something to all the engineers and remind them that we want number of trees removed in caliper inch, we want cut and fill calculations.
Yep.
We shouldn't have to, and whatever else we usually ask for.
Trees on a plan.
Trees on the
Trees on the
plan.
Yep. Okay.
Move to accept as discussed.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.
Again, I'm not on the
No,
forum.
not so fast.
Okay.
Not so fast adjourning, I'm sorry,
I
you can
tried.
make.
I tried.
Yeah, you tried. You guys have to
Something
have a
not
special.
reasonably anticipated by the chair.
Oh, absolutely. You guys need a special meeting because you closed a bunch of hearings tonight and you don't have a meeting for 3 weeks.
right, too.
Oh,
Oh,
Can we do it right now?
funny how that works. No, you may
Oh,
not.
that's right, we have to
So
advertise.
here's the thing, guys. I'm out of the office next week. You can meet with Brendan. Brendan can take notes. You can discuss the projects. And then we can write them up and have them issued by, when I get back. Or you can wait until I get back. My schedule when I get back for a couple of, so we're not gonna be here that Monday because it's Labor Day. And then Wednesday and Thursday, I have appointments that I have to go to.
Let's meet with Brendan, because
So,
otherwise
I'm
I'll be
think-
gone.
Yeah, so
Yes,
Betsy will be
right.
gone.
All
So, Brendan has office hours on Tuesday mornings. I know mornings are better for you guys, or a lot of you. So which day do you want? Wednesday? Because we have to post the public meeting, so it can't be done tomorrow.
Right.
We could, Friday, no, we'd have to get it out by like 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's not gonna happen. So your options are Wednesday or Thursday.
I can't do Thursday. Well, it depends on how early I have a
The
field trip.
Perch Pond meeting is
It's Thursday.
Thursday.
Okay,
What time is it?
9.
Well, my field trip is at 9.
So do you want to, how
You-
many do we have to do?
You have to do,
The ones we just closed, we did on the
Where's
Carrie
my
Road,
5
Carrie
of them,
Lane.
4?
you have to do
Oh,
Crane, 177 Fay, Quistit Harbor, and the town of Falmouth.
Town of Falmouth easy.
That's easy.
I don't know,
We
what,
close, yeah.
what day is better for you guys, Wednesday or
Point.
Thursday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, probably.
Wednesday.
Plus we'll all
Everybody
remember it
has
'cause it's
something at
Concom
9
Day.
o'clock on
Wednesday, the
Thursday.
29th, is that what we're talking?
Yeah.
8 o'clock?
Is that good for you?
Okay, I can do that.
8 o'clock?
Can everybody else do that?
Jamie?
Or-
8 o'clock?
8 o'clock?
Is that too early for you, Jamie? No? Okay.
How
Steve?
about,
I'm out of town
Steve's out of town?
until
Okay.
the 5th, so
Okay.
since we didn't have any meetings, sort of.
No, that's
Yeah,
fine.
Plan my
I mean,
vacation around the
you know what,
conservation.
Steve?
I do too.
You know,
I do
Steve,
too.
this kind
Oh,
of
good
this
God.
occasionally happens, when we don't have 2 meetings, and it's gonna happen around
Right.
Thanksgiving, when we have
Yeah.
town meeting
So
and
4 of us can
Thanksgiving
do it.
back to
Kevin,
back,
can
and
you
it'll
do that?
happen around Christmas. It happens occasionally.
I'm
So you know
pretty
we
sure
should
I
do-
can.
All right.
I'll check my schedule when I get home.
And
But-
Peter, can you meet then?
And that's August 29th
Yeah,
Yes.
next Wednesday,
at what time?
8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
got
that's
one
5 of
yes.
us.
4.
That's
I got
5 of us.
Jamie,
No,
I got
that's 5
Mary.
of us, and then maybe 6.
Maury, you have a question?
No, yes, I can do it.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
everybody that can do it, raise their hands. Okay, we got a quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
You're
6. I got a
extra.
quorum.
Yeah.
Can
I'll at
you-
least get 4 of you
Can you
here.
please make sure Amy sends a reminder?
I will, Brendan,
Thank you.
thank you.
August,
We're all kind of old.
I adjourn, make a motion to
Second.
adjourn.
Okay.
I know.
what's the date next?
29.
29th. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
all those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No.
No? You were
Now, Art's
opposing?
gonna be doing instead of me.
No,
No, no, no.
sorry. I raised my hand with the aye.
Oh.
Can I ask a question now that
Get
we're
myself
out?
under control.
An informal question?
Twice.
Okay, we just discovered that
Before
this
and again.
project done by the state with the boat ramp may have some flaws.
So you can do it.
Yes,
Do we have responsibility?
yes.
Are we, if I was a teacher and a child was abused, you would be a mandated reporter?
I'm gonna talk to our town engineer.
If I become aware of a problem on a project that we've previously approved,
Oh.
do I have the responsibility to immediately inform you, or someone
I don't know
of
if
my
that,
concern.
I don't know if that's a legal matter, but it's the right thing to do.
Okay,
You should inform Jen.
Yeah, Jen.
What?
Inform Jen.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. One of the issues that came up in the regional meeting we had in East Falmouth
Yeah.
was our inability to deal with compliance issues because of lack of staffing. It may have sounded in the report, they were talking about public safety, but in fact, they weren't. They were talking about many city departments, DPW, Conservation, and others, that simply don't have the staff to do ongoing compliance.
Of course, yeah.
We,
Don't say you have the staff.
no,
Okay.
I don't. And one of, and one of the things is this, the department was approved for a half-time person. Unfortunately, due to different circumstances within the department, that's being pushed out. I'm hoping to start advertising for that sometime in October, and part of that half-time person's, it's basically a half-time agent. Part of their job is going to be, doing compliance on ongoing job sites right now. We usually see compliance at the end when they want to clear up and they need to sell the house or they want to get certificate of compliance. But a lot of these issues come up when there are compliance issues with the order of conditions while the project is ongoing. And part of the new agent's role is going to be site management compliance out there. Is that what you're talking about, Steve?
No, I'm talking about post-construction,
Yep.
where you may have gone out and inspected it, and at date 1, it was in compliance. And suddenly at date 3, it was no longer in compliance.
That happens
That's
too.
enforcement.
That's enforcement.
Well, enforcement, okay,
Yeah, and that
fine.
on
And
the other
then
part-
is that under the same,
Yes, that'll be under the same.
Okay.
It'll be compliance and enforcements.
because I do see the orders that come through periodically.
Yeah.
Not to keep
We
you all
have,
here
we
so
have
I can
one,
get
we
informed
have
about
one
stuff,
right
but-
now. I can honestly tell you, we have to visit a site tomorrow morning between 2 other sites on a compliance issue that, we're aware of right now. Sometimes we're able to do that and sometimes we just can't get out there, especially while it's happening, and that's a problem that, we're going to fix.
And actually, Steve, what happens a lot of times, as you know, we go out to a site to go look at 105, Tom Doe Road, and you look on both sides and you're like, oh my God,
Right.
It's not, this project's fine, it's the 2 next to it that are totally, that they had compliance 4 years ago, and there was a buffer, and then you go there and it's mowed to the marsh.
Right.
And then you call Jen or Mark, and then it gets added to the stack that's high, and it's like a big revolving.
Foster Road, in a recent example, we have a non-compliant on both sides that I'm perfectly aware of. The one where the beach is, they're not providing public access to the beach. Is that ours or is that the 300 committee?
It's ours.
It's unclear.
It's neither.
They're not
It's a
Or
providing-
it's a town